will flush out the rogues from the neutral territory so that they can temporarily merge the border with the Springleaf Pack. This was new, and everyone was excited. Talia was impressed that no one had concerns about this, as dangers would come from rogues and potentially from the Springleaf Pack. They will just follow your order even if they might be harmed? Talia asked through their mind link. She knew that these were strong and prideful warriors, and she was worried that they might do something on their own when Damon was not watching over them.
This is not just my order, Damon responded. They see that Caden and Maya are supporting this, and when the leadership is united, the rest will follow. That's why it's important that we stand together in front of our people. If you have any objections, voice them in private.
He turned to look at her seriously.
I will never oppose you or question you in front of others.
And probably not in private either.
If I do that, others will see it as a sign of discord and distrust. I want our people to trust you as much as they trust me.
Talia really admired Damon. He was one of the youngest alphas around, yet he was so knowledgeable and she fell for him more. Damon selected a group of warriors to stick around and spar with James and George inside the training center so that Calvin, the reporter for WW Magazine, can take photos. Damon and Talia sat on exercising mats, with Damon's arm around Talia's shoulders as they observed the training. Keith, Sandy, Lulu, Liam, Pierce, and Caleb were sitting nearby and occasionally looking at Talia and Damon. Talia could guess that they were talking through the mind link, and she wanted to invite them to sit closer to her and Damon. But Damon explained that her recently appointed personal guards wouldn't be comfortable.
You can be friendly with them in private, but now that they know your identity, they will show you respect in front of others,
Damon said to Talia through their private mind link.
Don't think of it as demeaning. They are warriors and you are their superior. A military's might is amplified by discipline. We have a chain of command and rules to follow.
Talia was aware that she would need some time to get used to this. She remembered that Maya and Caden would walk behind Damon and address him by his title in front of others, and when it was just them, things would be informal. Will she be able to strike such a balance with her guards and be okay with it? Especially with Keith. She always looked at him as her trainer, someone who could guide her. Can she treat him as a subordinate? Talia decided to leave those thoughts for later. She knew that Damon was not just sitting next to her. He was monitoring the progress of removing rogues from the neutral territory by mind-linking the generals who were assigned to that task. But he was still by her side, and Talia wanted to bask in his presence. She leaned on Damon completely while looking at the stars of this show, James and George. Talia was amused when she noticed Cornelia's various expressions. Cornelia grimaced when James punched someone, and her whole body tensed like she was about to jump in there when James received a hit. Dawn just gazed at George dreamily, and if this was a cartoon, Dawn would have hearts in her eyes.
Luna Talia!
A call was heard from the side.
Pardon me, I meant Alpha Talia. Can I have a word with you?
Talia needed a moment to recognize the man. It was Calvin, the reporter. What did he want? About what? Talia asked. Calvin sat on the exercising mat while keeping a respectable distance from Talia, and he extended his hand that was holding a recorder toward Talia.
Alpha Talia, everyone would like to know, where did you meet Alpha Damon? When? How did it all unfold? When did you... Calvin,
Damon called in a dangerously low voice. He was pissed that the reporter was coming here to disturb them and ask for more, even though they gave him a chance to interview Marcy and to cover this training. Normally, this area was off limits for reporters because they might accidentally leak secrets that should stay within the military.
You are here to interview Maya and to cover our collaboration with the Red Moon Pack,
Damon reminded him. Calvin licked his lips nervously.
I am, but... No buts, Calvin,
Damon interrupted him.
Are you so greedy for more that you will risk losing your current privileges?
Talia saw that Calvin was torn. He really wanted to interview Talia, but he didn't want to anger Damon. Calvin lowered his head and started moving away when Talia stopped him.
Calvin, I hope you can understand that these are sensitive times, and we want my position to be stable within the pack before outsiders find out about it. There is a reason why we didn't disclose we were mates so far,
Talia said with all the seriousness in the world. Calvin's eyes widened in understanding.
Are you saying that someone is targeting you? For your safety, I can't talk about it now. If you don't leave willingly, Damon will put you in a dungeon. How about you join us in the pack house for breakfast after the pack run? Hopefully by then, this mess will be cleared up. At that time, I can give you an exclusive interview. Think about it. In this way, you will have front-page stories for 2 editions of WW Magazine. The first one is your coverage of Marcy's statement, with a side story of our collaboration with the Red Moon Pack. Your next big scoop will be about me. Of course, Alpha Damon will also be able to answer your questions at that time, because the main story is that the Alpha of the Dark Howlers Pack found his mate.
Calvin smiled happily, feeling that he was part of this process and not just a side character.
All right. Take care, Alpha Talia.
He bowed a little.
Alpha Damon, we will see each other in 2 days.
Talia confirmed. Until then, she put an index finger over her lips. Calvin gestured with his fingers like he was locking his mouth and throwing the key away, and then he turned and left. Damon was impressed. He was ready to use his aura to punish Calvin, or maybe he would throw the nosy reporter in the dungeon, or maybe send him for survival training. Yet Talia effortlessly negotiated with him.
Isn't she the best?
Damon put his hand at the back of Talia's neck and pulled her closer to press his lips on her forehead.
You really are everything I need in my life.
He spoke against her skin.
How I wish that we could leave all this behind and just be.
Talia's heart expanded at the flood of emotions from Damon. The pure love and admiration were overwhelming, and there was some lust in there as well. She wished they had privacy to share a kiss that conveyed all the longing in her heart, one that would lead to making love until they collapsed in each other's arms. She yearned for that skin-to-skin closeness, for the feeling of his presence enveloping her, filling her completely, because only in those moments did she feel whole. And no matter how near they were, it never felt close enough. Talia's breathing picked up, reminding her that she was getting aroused and that she was surrounded by werewolves.
What if they smell her?
Talia was desperate to change the topic.
Are we just going to sit and watch?
Damon cocked an eyebrow at Talia.
Should we be doing more than sitting and watching? Well, this is a training center. How about we spar?
Damon's lips lifted into a mischievous half smile.
You want to spar with me? In front of everyone?
It took a few seconds for Talia to realize he was being naughty.
I meant sparring.
She put an emphasis on the last word.
I know you are eager to assess the changes after our marking, but...
He leaned closer to speak in a low voice.
I'm not sure if we should engage in such activity here. Think about you charging at me, our bodies clashing, blood pumping, sweat dripping.
Damon chuckled when Talia's cheeks turned crimson, and she knew very well that clashing, pumping, and dripping were beyond ambiguous.
Our sparring sessions should be kept private. Don't you think so?
Damon asked in a singing voice. Talia stared at the outrageous alpha who was teasing her, but she couldn't deny that he was right, so she ended up nodding in response. Damon smiled in approval and leaned to peck her lips.
You will get a good sparring session, kitten. As soon as I'm back from that meeting, I will make sure you sweat completely.
People are watching. Talia spoke in an urgent whisper, but she didn't move away.
Let them watch,
Damon said.
I am done hiding. Aren't you?
It was not the first time for Damon to kiss Talia in public, But this was in broad daylight, and people were sparring and wearing gym clothes, and Damon still managed to make her forget everything and focus only on his presence, like they were the only two people in the world. Sandy nudged Lulu with her elbow to look at Damon and Talia, who were lost in their lovey-dovey bubble.
Ah, they are getting along well. It's obvious that our alpha is smitten, Lulu gushed.
Of course they will get along well. They are mates, Sandy responded.
Do you think they will have pups soon?
Lulu asked with sparkles in her eyes, and Sandy was eager to start chatter about guessing when it will happen and how many babies they will have. Now that we are Talia's personal guards, we will spend a lot of time with the alpha couple, Caleb chimed in. If their pup is a boy, maybe he will be named after me. Future Alpha Caleb. I like it. Liam snorted. Please. He will be named after me, and I will be Godfather Liam. It has a nice ring to it.
I will be Uncle Pierce.
Keith balled his hands into fists as the chatter around him grew. He was still recovering from the shock of Talia being Damon's mate. Since Keith met Talia and realized that Damon was possessive of her, Keith consoled himself that if he was patient, Damon would get bored of Talia, just as he did of numerous previous women, and then Keith would get his chance. But now he was out of chances. Mates are forever. Looking at Talia being happy with another man was painful, but at least she was happy, and that should count for something. Keith listened to Lulu, Sandy, Pierce, Caleb, and Liam chatting about mates and babies, and he wondered if that was truly as magical as they described it. If only being with a mate can invoke deep emotions that would stir his wolf, what was this suffocating longing that was gripping his heart? The day passed quickly, and before Talia noticed, a glorious sunset marked the time for Damon to leave. Be careful, Talia told him as they walked out of the pack house to see Caden with Maya and 4 warriors already standing there next to Damon's black-armored Lexus SUV. Damon was going with Caden and 4 warriors, but the warriors will stay with the plane because only Alpha and Beta can actually enter the location where the Council of Alphas was held. Damon didn't want to part from Talia, but she couldn't come with him, and she wouldn't be safe staying with the plane. So in addition to Talia having her personal guards, Damon doubled the patrols around the pack house, fearing that Alpha Edward would try something sinister in Damon's absence. The news about Talia being Damon's mate was not publicized outside the Dark Howlers pack, but Damon knew that Alpha Edward had his sources, and with Marcy out of the picture, the old man was furious, and Damon was confident that this ploy with the Council of Alphas was not the only thing Alpha Edward planned as part of his retaliation. Damon tightened his hold on Talia and gave her a long, lingering kiss. Stay safe, kitten, he murmured against her lips. Don't worry about me. I will take care of things. I always do. Don't do anything rashly, Talia warned him. And don't forget that you are not alone. There are people supporting you. Damon appreciated the pep talk, but what touched him was Talia's sincerity and conviction he could feel. She really meant it. He hummed in agreement before pecking her lips a few more times and stepping away from her with difficulty. Damon looked behind Talia to see Keith, Lulu, Sandy, Pierce, Caleb, and Liam standing at attention, and they all understood the silent threat that if anything happens to Talia in his absence, it will be their heads rolling. The 6 of them got rooms to use while on duty in the pack house. Talia didn't notice Damon glaring at her guards because she was looking at Caden with concern. He was the one with the potion. Like he could feel Talia's gaze, Caden turned to look at her and he gave her a reassuring nod when their eyes met. Liselli had a theory that the mate bond was amplifying the effect of the potion, or maybe lessening the effect of the black runes, and that was why Damon's memories were intact, even though he took the potion nearly 24 hours ago. Talia feared that with the distance between them increasing, the black runes might take over again, and then she didn't want to think about it. Even if he forgets about her again, She will make him remember, because he would do the same for her if the roles were reversed.
Be a good girl,
Damon said to Talia seriously.
I will come back to you tomorrow. Not if I find you first.
Talia responded, making Damon's lips lift into a smile as he walked toward the car. Talia could feel that Damon was suppressing a heap of worries behind that smile, and he was doing it so that she was not troubled. He was worried about the possibility of forgetting about Talia again and acting like an ass who didn't want a mate. And he was worried about what will happen at the Council of Alphas, but he hated the most that they will spend the night apart.
After this, we won't be apart anymore.
Talia's voice sounded in Damon's mind.
No meeting will keep me away from you. You have a deal, Mrs. Blake,
Damon responded, and Talia could feel the joy sparking inside him. The car disappeared behind trees after a turn on the driveway, and Talia called,
Maya, there is something we need to talk about.
Talia was in the study with Maya, James, and Cornelia.
You're a what?
Maya asked Talia in disbelief. The lack of response from James and Cornelia told Maya that the couple knew about it already. I am the Alpha of the Midnight Guardians pack, Talia repeated.
How? When did that happen?
Aren't you Damon's mate? Can you lead 2 packs, or will you merge them into one? Talia lifted her hands to stop Maya's flood of questions. She didn't have answers to those anyway. It's a long story, but Alpha Isaac and Alpha Sophia are relieved from their positions. I am the Alpha, and Axel is my proxy with his mate Luna Yasmin. Yasmin is a witch from the same coven as Cornelia. I don't have much time, and I need your help.
What's the rush?
Maya asked. As the Alpha, I want to attend the Council of Alphas, Talia said.
If you want to attend it, why didn't you go with...
Maya's voice trailed when she realized.
Damon doesn't know?
Talia spread her arms helplessly in front of Maya's accusatory look. I tried to tell him, but he was busy with other stuff and there was no right time. Besides, didn't you see how worried he was about my safety? He wouldn't let me go. Maya couldn't believe this.
And what do you think? How will he react when you waltz into the meeting?
That might be a problem, but... Damon told me that he would never oppose me in front of outsiders. No matter what he thinks, once I'm in there, he will know that's my way of helping him. And if he causes trouble, it will only hurt him and me. He might be angry, but he would never put me in danger. It will be all right. Maya pinched the roof of her nose.
Great. Just great. You plan to get into trouble, and you just made me an accomplice.
She released a long breath.
Tell me, what do you plan to do?
Talia glanced at Cornelia. Cornelia will teleport me to the Light Claw pack. Kalina is expecting me, and I will meet up with Axel there. It's the closest one to the location of the meeting.
You already figured all that out,
Maya grumbled.
Why do you need me?
She thought of something.
Do you want me to go there as your beta?
No. Talia rejected Maya's suggestion. People know you're the beta of the Dark Howlers pack, and if you show up there, they might start questioning my presence too. I need you to make sure no one knows I'm out, at least until the council meeting starts. Cornelia will return soon, but I'm staying overnight. If Damon or Caden call asking about me, I need you to tell them everything is fine. Maya pursed her lips.
Did you forget that 2 guys are standing in front of the study right now, and they will have a shift change every 4 hours?
How could Talia forget that Liam and Pierce had the first shift of guarding Talia? That's where you come in.
Why don't you just tell them that you will be away?
They are warriors, Talia said matter-of-factly. They have orders from Damon to keep an eye on me, and if I tell them otherwise, it will be opposing Damon's order and forcing them to pick between the 2 of us. I can't do that to them or to Damon. I already argued with them to wait outside. Maya made a face.
In order to spare the feelings of your guards and Damon, you are throwing me into the fire?
Talia looked at Maya guiltily. When you put it that way, it sounds bad.
Do you know what else sounds bad?
Maya asked grumpily.
You going there and something happens to you. Damon will cause a bloodbath until he finds you, and none of us will survive until the pack run. Did you think about that? Who knows you will be going there?
Talia hesitated. Axel, James, Cornelia, and you. She spoke to Kalina and told her that she would come to visit, but without any details. Maya was outraged and she looked at James and Cornelia. Her furious expression was asking them why they didn't talk some sense into Talia. But the duo in question was just sitting in silence. They didn't want to meddle. Talia told them that Cornelia only needed to take Talia to the Light Claw pack, and their involvement with this flaky plan was over. James talked to Talia about the council, and he believed that she would know what to do. Maya exhaled in frustration.
So no one relevant knows. Talia, what are you thinking? This is not about you sneaking to eat ice cream when it's not allowed. This is about you going into the enemy territory without a plan and without alerting your allies. It's suicide.
Talia was touched, and she knew that Maya meant well, but she was running out of time, and she needed to show that she could handle this. She must do this for herself, for Damon, and for the Dark Howlers pack. What's the point of her being Luna or Alpha? And what's the point of her powers if she will hide while her mate is fighting for them? Talia stood up and spoke with confidence. Alphas are gathering with an intention to band against Damon because they are greedy. If things don't end well, the Dark Howlers pack will suffer. Damon needs all the help he could get. Would you be able to sit out if Caden is in trouble and you believe that you can help him? Talia's eyes started glowing with silvery light. Did you forget who I am? I am the Alpha of the Midnight Guardians pack. The silvery glow pulsated around Talia's body. There is a reason why Axel is not the Alpha. Do I need to tell you which one it is? Maya gaped at Talia, who was now completely shrouded in silvery light. Maya saw Talia glowing like that when she was saving Damon from the black mist the previous evening. But now that Talia was standing in front of her, it looked much more impressive. Maya wondered, did Talia ask her something? Yes, it was about the rules of how Alpha was being determined, and Maya knew that only power matters because in their world, the strongest ones stand at the top. And right now, Talia looked like her position was not on the top, but way above everything on Earth. The silvery light splashed on Maya, making her feel like a pleasant breeze enveloped her, bringing peace and happiness with it. Maya never felt anything like it. Without thinking, Maya lowered her head.
I understand, Alpha Talia. I will do my best to assist you.
Thank you, Maya, Talia said with relief obvious in her voice. She really didn't want to argue or use force. After all, Maya was her friend, and Talia didn't want to remind her of Damon's instructions that said how Talia is an Alpha, Damon's equal, and that members of the Dark Howlers pack should treat her as such, Maya included. Maya lifted her head to see that Talia was not glowing anymore.
What's the plan? How will you get out of here without your guards noticing?
Maya asked.
I can distract them for some time, but not for the whole night.
Talia was pleased to see that Maya was on board. Cornelia prepared a teleporting diagram in the groove beyond the garden. We will sneak through the back exit using the blind spots of security cameras, and Cornelia will return the same way. Actually, if someone sees Cornelia returning, no one will care.
I will also go with you,
James said.
Cora is still new in this realm, and I don't want anyone to take advantage of her.
James had no intention to separate from Cornelia. Talia didn't mind if James came, but she found it super cute that they were holding hands, and there was that adorable nickname also, Cora. Talia spoke to Maya. The idea is that we will tell my guards how we are doing a sleepover in my room or yours. The fact that I'm with you, the beta, should make my guards relax a bit,
and they won't dare to come and disturb us. Maya saw so many problems with this, but even if the crazy idea works, there was still one issue. You sneaking out like that will be perceived as their incompetence. Damon will either punish them or relieve them of their duty. But even if a miracle happens and they come out of this scot-free, it will be a smear on their record as warriors.
Not if I tell Damon that I used my power on them.
Maya's interest was piqued. What power?
For them not to notice me leaving.
Do you have such power? Maya asked.
No, but they don't know that, Talia responded with a grin.
Maya looked at Talia helplessly. Maya, I know you are worried, and I am worried as well, but for other reasons. I took the herbs to suppress my scent so they can't track me, and they won't care if Cornelia's or your scents are here or not. As for pacifying Damon, leave him to me. I gave him a slip several times, and he won't have any right to call others incompetent because they lost me. Maya agreed with this point. She remembered when Talia went into the forest and Damon summoned all warriors to search for her, and then he went to fetch Talia personally. Talia was skilled in moving without being noticed. It was like her superpower. Maya had another question. When are you going? Talia glanced at the time. In 15 minutes. Maya was not happy with this. If you can teleport there, why are you going this early? Why not at dawn? Then Maya won't need to lie to Talia's guards for a long time, and with any luck, they will think that Talia is sleeping. There are things I need to settle in the Light Claw pack before Alpha Magnus goes to attend the meeting, Talia said. Maya's eyes darted randomly as she connected the dots. You want to persuade Alpha Magnus to support Damon? I hope I can do that, Talia responded. You will need much more than hope, Leah, Maya said. Alpha Magnus is not an easy man to sway. All of this is happening because Alpha Edward wants Marcy to become Damon's Luna. But Alpha Magnus and Luna Alicia are fated mates, and I believe he will understand that forcing Damon into Marcy's, or anyone else's, arms when he already has a fated mate goes against the will of the moon goddess. Maya puffed her cheeks. You are forgetting that Alpha Magnus is a misogynist. Damon pampers you because of his feelings, because of the mate bond, because he doesn't want you for benefits, and because he sees women and men as equals. Luna Alicia is not so lucky, as Alpha Magnus appreciates her in the bedroom and how she manages the pack house, but when it comes to the pack business and important stuff, she is being pushed aside. No matter what your arguments are, you will be lucky if he doesn't kick you out of his study. Types like Alpha Magnus think of women as decorative vases. Talia knew that Maya was saying that because she came from a pack where patriarchy ruled, and females were treated as baby machines that needed to clean and please their mates. And maybe the situation there was still the same. Talia wondered if she could persuade Damon to go there and see if they could make some changes, but she couldn't get distracted by those issues now. I don't expect it will be easy, Talia said, but I won't know unless I try. As for benefits, won't it be enough to think that we will be allies? Just by being on good terms with Damon and me, the Light Claw pack will prosper. Maya snorted. Good luck with that. She looked at Talia seriously. Alpha Magnus won't be easy to talk to. No matter what happens, don't lose your temper. If you use your power on him, it's a declaration of war. Maya, Cornelia, and Talia went to Maya's room. It was on the second floor, and Cornelia and Talia decided to come out of the window and then use the cover of bushes to meet with James, who would be waiting for them in the garden.
Keith and Caleb will want to see you on our shift change,
Liam told Talia as she was about to close the door of Maya's room. That won't be necessary, Talia said. We will be wearing nightgowns, and if Alpha or Beta find out that you saw us like that, you will be in trouble. Liam and Pierce exchanged concerned gazes. Damon told them that at any moment, at least 2 guards should be looking at Talia, and she already spent half an hour in the study without them. Don't tell me that you want to join us in bed, Maya said while standing behind Talia. I will be with her. What can go wrong?
So many things, but Maya didn't dare say that aloud. Talia wanted to talk with her guards and explain the whole sleepover thing, but Maya said how that won't be necessary.
The more you talk about it, the more suspicious it will get. This is their first night in the pack house, and let them think that these sleepovers are normal,
Maya advised. With all that settled, and guards accepting to stay in the hallway without intruding unless there is a cry for help, Talia moved toward the open window and looked down. How do we get out? Jump? It didn't look safe.
With this,
Maya said, and Talia's eyes widened at the sight of a long rope. Why do you have such a thing in your room? Maya smiled mischievously.
You don't need to know. I didn't think it would come in handy outside of bed.
Talia gaped at Maya. She knew that Maya and Caden were playful, but ropes? The most she did with Damon was when he covered her eyes, but then, maybe in a few years, they will be adventurous enough to try other things as well. At the Light Claw Pack, Tony and Kalina were expecting Talia in their suite that included a small living area. Cornelia and James decided to stick around because Axel will come with Yasmin to give the token to Talia, and Cornelia wanted to see Yasmin before heading back to the Dark Howlers Pack.
To what do we owe this pleasure, Leah?
Kalina asked after the introductions were done. Both Kalina and Tony were surprised to see James, aka a teen from a hostile pack, and Cornelia, aka the new face.
How come you are here without Damon?
Kalina glanced at Talia's neck and smiled at the sight of a pinkish mark forming there.
We saw each other only a few days ago, yet you look so different.
A lot of things happened, but before we start catching up, we need to take care of some business, Talia said and turned to Tony. I need to talk to your father.
He is in his study, discussing things with his beta. It seems there is something going on, and he will leave in the middle of the night. When do you want to see him?
Now, Talia responded. Tony's expression told her that it won't be easy.
I can tell him you are here, but there is no guarantee he will see you now.
I need to talk to him, Tony, Talia pleaded. It's important.
What's going on?
Kalina asked. Talia didn't want to waste time, but she knew that Tony wouldn't be supportive without knowing at least a part of the story. You all probably heard about Marcy leaving this morning, Talia said, and when Kalina and Tony nodded, Talia gave them a short version of how Alpha Edward was not pleased that he lost a pawn that could give him access to resources of the Dark Howlers Pack. So he summoned the Council of Alphas. They will meet at dawn. Alpha Magnus is preparing for that meeting. I don't know what Alpha Edward is up to, but he is definitely plotting against Damon. Talia turned to Tony. I need your father to understand the situation, and I hope that he won't side with the bad guys. If they get the majority of votes to suppress Damon and the Dark Howlers Pack, Damon won't allow it to happen without retaliation. Tony's face was arranged in a deep frown. He heard all kinds of stories about Alpha Edward, but was it okay to talk like that in front of James, aka Alpha Edward's son? And why was James more focused on the dark-skinned beauty by his side than on the verbal smackdown of the Red Moon? One should look at a woman like that only if they were mates, and James was definitely too young for such things. Tony dispelled his thoughts about James and Cornelia because there were more important things to think about. Tony realized that they might be on the verge of a massive war among werewolves, yet his father was keeping him in the dark. Tony felt useless. He was the future alpha with his mate by his side and a pack, and Talia was just a not acknowledged mate of an alpha, yet she spoke with conviction that stirred other people to support her. But no matter how strong Talia's heart was, Tony knew his father was, and he was aware that she was about to attempt the impossible. However, he didn't want to discourage Talia before she even tried.
I will talk to him and do my best to secure you a meeting.
Thank you, Tony, Talia said with sincerity. It needs to happen before he leaves. That's all I'm asking from you.
Tony glanced toward James and Cornelia.
Who else will be attending?
Just me, Talia said. If you can skip telling your father that James is here, that would be for the best. Tony looked at James in confusion. Why would they conceal James's presence?
My father doesn't know I'm here, and I would like to keep it that way,
James said without further explanations. Tony didn't comment on this. He went to talk to his father, and Talia checked her phone before turning to Kalina. Axel will be here with his mate soon. No matter what you hear, I hope it can stay between us, and please, don't panic. Kalina's eyebrows shoot up. I am already panicking. Tell me, how bad is it? Alpha Edward feels that Damon is a threat, and he was using Marcy to get his hands on Damon's resources. Now that it failed, we believe he will turn hostile. Hostile? Like a war? Kalina asked grimly. A war between the two largest packs will drag in everyone else. Talia didn't deny it. That's why I need to talk to Alpha Magnus. If Alpha Edward doesn't have the support of the majority of Alphas, they won't be able to start anything openly. In order to be more effective, tell me something about Alpha Magnus. Kalina grimaced. He is prideful and thinks that he knows everything. To be honest, I don't think you should talk to him on your own. At least go with Tony. Talia didn't want to implicate Tony, especially if she failed. Tony might be punished. But then, Kalina wouldn't suggest for Tony to accompany her just because of moral support. What will Tony do? Alpha Magnus won't bully you with Tony around. Talia needed a minute to understand Kalina's words. Did he bully you? I don't know if I'd call it bullying, but... Kalina paused, contemplating how much she should reveal. You see, Tony believes that women should hold roles beyond just Omegas in this pack, and the pack members support him. But Alpha Magnus thinks that's one of the radical ideas I planted in Tony's mind. He never hit me or anything like that, but he made it clear that I'm disrupting the pack and the order he's working so hard to maintain. He said that, as the future Luna, I should know better. After we returned from your pack, Tony mentioned he was considering either Nate or Greg as his beta, and Alpha Magnus lost it. The old man is pushing for Paul to take that position, because Paul's father is the current beta, and somehow I got blamed for that too, because apparently, before meeting me, Tony was much more obedient. So, you get the picture. Talia nodded stiffly. She got the picture all right. It was a picture of a grumpy old man in power who was suppressing anyone who might jeopardize him or his so-called order. But was it really hopeless? Talia remembered one person. What about Luna Alicia? How does she fit into this picture? Kalina shrugged. Luna Alicia is a good person, and she is encouraging Tony to do what he believes is right. But that's only in private. Whenever Alpha Magnus is in the room, she turns quiet. Talia interpreted this as, Tony's mother is supportive, but useless. The more Talia thought about her upcoming chat with Alpha Magnus, the less confidence she had. She imagined grumpy elders and how she would deal with them without Damon around. Even in her head, it seemed to be impossible. How was she supposed to reason with him? Talia's mind worked a million thoughts a second. Liselli, what do you think? We can always suppress the bastard and force him to do what we want. Talia rejected that idea. What happens when suppression is over and he retaliates? I can't go into that meeting while mind-controlling Alpha Magnus. Assuming that's even possible. I can try to put pressure on his mind and brainwash him, Liselli suggested. But that's risky. If I use too less, it won't work, and if it's too much, he might become a vegetable. Can your ideas be less violent? Talia asked. Liselli snorted. Your less violent approach won't produce any results. You either want results or not. We are running out of time. Talia couldn't believe this. Talking with Alpha Magnus had close to zero chances of success, and violence was not an option. Now what? Axel, Yasmin, and Meg arrived, and Talia asked the newcomers to drop the formalities before introducing Yasmin to James and Kalina.
Did you say she is a witch?
Kalina asked with sparkles in her eyes, reminding Talia that Kalina and Maya are magic-obsessed buddies. So far, no one said the W word, so Kalina didn't suspect anything, thinking that Cornelia was just a human female that caught James's attention. However, when introducing Yasmin, Talia said how Yasmin is Axel's mate and a witch.
A witch!
I told you that you will hear things and not to panic, Talia reminded Kalina. I am actually from the Midnight Guardians pack. From there, you can reach a place where witches live, and that's from where Yasmin and Cornelia came. Kalina gaped at Talia, unsure which one of these to process first, and then she looked at Yasmin and Cornelia, who were talking in whispers.
When you say witches, you mean spells and potions and stuff, right?
Talia shook her head helplessly. You can ask them.
You found your mate!
Yasmin exclaimed, making Talia and Kalina look that way. Kalina's brows came together when she realized that Yasmin was talking about James, whose chest was puffed, resembling a peacock.
Isn't James underage?
Kalina asked in a whisper.
Yes,
he doesn't feel the bond fully, but Cornelia can feel it. Kalina needed a moment. This was just one bomb after another. But she knew by now that James had Talia's trust, which meant that he was not really a bad kid, but he was a kid, the future alpha of the greediest pack in existence. And Kalina could imagine that James would have many challenges if he wanted to take Cornelia home with him. Yet the possibility of them separating them was equally difficult. Once werewolves become aware of their mates, their whole world shifts with the center of gravity set on the mate, and Kalina felt sorry for the couple. Sure, life in the Light Claw pack restricted many freedoms Kalina had so far, but at least she got to be with her mate. And Tony was working hard with a promise that things will be better once he takes over as the alpha. Kalina could see a better tomorrow coming in the foreseeable future, but with James being only 16 years old, he won't be an adult for another 2 years. And who knows how long Alpha Edward will delay giving James the alpha position. Before Kalina could ask more questions, the door opened and Tony appeared. Tony greeted the newcomers and looked at Meg with a complex expression. He didn't know that she would be there. Meg was supposed to be his beta, his second in command, but she found her mate in another pack, and the only thing Tony could say was, "It's good to see you, Meg. Is the Midnight Guardians pack treating you well?" Meg knew not to talk about changes in the leadership in the Midnight Guardians pack until Axel and Talia made it official.
Things are great. How are things here?
You probably know that a storm is brewing, Tony responded and turned to Talia, who was looking at him anxiously. My father will see you now. He told me that you get 5 minutes. Talia nodded in understanding. She was grateful that she got that much. Let's go. Axel grabbed Talia's arm. Where are you going? To speak with Alpha Magnus. I didn't tell you everything over the phone, but the situation is not good, and we need Alpha Magnus on our side. I will join you, Axel said with finality, and Talia knew that he wouldn't let her go without him. Okay, Talia agreed. But please, let me handle it. Axel agreed. Unless he tries to bully you, I will stand on the side. Kalina, Meg, Talia called. I trust that you will keep Yasmin, Cornelia, and James safe until we return. Just go, Kalina said with a big smile on her face. Why was Talia so official? This was Kalina and Tony's oasis, and no one will disturb them. But why was Meg bowing to Talia? More questions. Seeing that Yasmin was chattering with Cornelia and that James was listening to two witches talking, Kalina pulled Meg to the side with, Tell me about the Midnight Guardians pack. How is life with Kai? Why didn't he come? Did you come here to visit your parents? How long are you staying?
Meg looked at Kalina helplessly, unsure of where to start from. But Meg was equally interested to hear what was going on in the Light Claw pack, so she started asking questions of her own.
Alpha Magnus was alone in the study, sitting behind his executive desk, when Tony arrived with Talia and Axel.
Future Alpha Axel,
Alpha Magnus greeted first without getting up.
I was not aware that you were here.
Actually, until Tony came to tell him that Talia wanted an audience, Alpha Magnus didn't know Talia was there either, and he thought of giving a good scolding to his security.
How can they have outsiders in the pack house without him knowing about it?
This is not an official visit, Axel said. There were 2 chairs in front of the desk, and Axel gestured for Talia to take a seat before he stood behind her, making him look like a guard. Tony was also standing on the side, so only Talia was sitting out of the 3, leaving an empty chair next to her.
Thank you for agreeing to see me, Alpha Magnus.
Talia started with pleasantries, even though the old guy technically ignored her so far. I know you are a busy man.
Since you know I'm busy, why don't you get to the point? I hope it's worth my time.
Talia noticed the unpleasant attitude Alpha Magnus didn't show last time. Was it because Damon was not present now? Maya and Kalina warned her that Alpha Magnus was not easy to talk to, but Talia didn't think he would be outright rude. How bad would it be if Axel were not with her? Talia pushed those questions to the side. This is about the upcoming Council of the Alphas. Alpha Edward requested this meeting because he is displeased that his daughter failed in becoming the Luna of the Dark Howlers pack. Alpha Edward is set on increasing his power, and he wants to use the Council of Alphas to suppress Damon. Seeing Alpha Magnus's amused expression, Talia realized that he knew all this already, and he was looking at her like a child who was complaining about some petty squabble on the playground. Talia decided to change her tactic. Will you stand up against Alpha Edward, or will you allow him to use you so that he gets stronger? Alpha Magnus's face darkened.
No one uses me.
I was not only talking about you, Alpha Magnus. I was talking about all alphas that are going there without an intention to do the right thing.
Oh? And what's the right thing to do?
This is an obvious case of Alpha Edward trying to use numbers in order to bully Damon. Unless you oppose it openly, your silence will support it.
Miss Talia,
Alpha Magnus called.
Are you expecting me to interfere with the issue of an alpha refusing to make a she-wolf his chosen mate?
That's not what I'm expecting from you. That's what Alpha Edward is expecting, Talia responded matter-of-factly. He will twist this into an issue of Damon abusing his power and being incompetent. But the reality is that this meeting is called because Marcy didn't achieve her goal. Everyone knows that. However, what you don't know is that Damon found his fated mate. I hear that Luna Alicia is your fated mate. What would you do if someone tried to match you with another woman? Damon wouldn't accept Marcy or any other, no matter how much pressure is put on him. Alpha Magnus listened to Talia with a stiff expression. Did he get her point? Sure. Based on the information he got, Damon's fated mate was right there in his office, trying to convince him to support Damon. However,
that is a touching story, Miss Talia, but I don't understand why you are telling it now, here, to me. I thought I was clear that I don't have much time, yet you came here to waste it.
Talia suppressed her rage that flared at his condescending tone. Waste it?
Are you really expecting me to meddle in Alpha Damon's choice of his Luna? Or in the efforts of Alpha Edward to create a bond through marriage with the Dark Howlers pack? You mentioned how Alicia is my fated mate. 3 decades ago, I chose Alicia to be my Luna. And if at that time I decided to reject her and pick another woman to be my Luna, I wouldn't be kind to people standing in my way. Do you understand that?
Talia's brows came together as she processed his words. Of course she understood that, but... This is about Alpha Edward trying. Yeah. Alpha Magnus interrupted Talia. Alpha Edward wants to get more powerful. What's new about that? A better question would be, what's wrong with that? Alphas want to grow so they can protect their people. It's normal. Let's stop pretending how this is about mates, doing the right thing, and other sentimental crap, because that's not how things work. If Alpha Damon were here, asking for my assistance, he would offer me something that would make me happy so that I can make him happy. That's how things work, Miss Talia. There is no such thing as a free lunch. So let me rephrase my question. Are you here to offer me something or just to waste my time?
Talia couldn't believe this. Weren't Alpha Magnus and Damon on friendly terms?
James told her that Alpha Magnus was selfish and thinking only about benefits, but she hoped that when facing her, he wouldn't be so shameless. Talia didn't need to look to her left to know that Tony's head was down and his hands were balled into fists. Tony didn't like this, but he didn't dare say anything against his father. This was wrong. So wrong. Damon is your ally. Will you turn your back on him now when he needs you because there are no direct benefits? What about the friendly relationship between your packs? What about Damon training and mentoring Tony? They are friends. Good friends. Doesn't that count for something? Alpha Magnus looked at Talia mockingly. You talk about friendship and Tony, but how does that relate to me? Talia couldn't believe this. Isn't Tony your son? Isn't he the future alpha of this pack? By helping Damon now, you will set a good stage for a good collaboration between Tony and Damon for years to come. Don't tell me you don't see it. Talia shook her head. Of course you see it, but you don't care because the only thing that concerns you are your benefits. Alpha Magnus didn't like the way Talia spoke, but Axel was right there, glaring at him, so he controlled his temper and responded. This is not about my benefits. I am thinking about my pack. That's what alphas do. Bullshit. Talia squeezed through her teeth. How about you drop the act and admit that this is only about you? If you are thinking about the Light Claw pack, you would invest more in your son. He is the future of this pack, not you. But instead of training him, you encouraged Tony to travel and have fun. Tony trusted that you had his interests at heart, yet you denied him years of proper education, and now people are talking about him as a failure. Damon is the only one trying to fix your wrongs. Tony has good ideas, yet you are ignoring. How dare you? Alpha Magnus snapped. Who do you think you are? She is. Axel stopped talking when Talia raised her hand. He doesn't need to know who I am, Axel, Talia said while standing up slowly, unable to sit still as anger swelled within her. Shameless goat! Liselli shouted in Talia's mind. Let me give him some pain. Talia ignored her bloodthirsty wolf and spoke to Axel while looking at Alpha Magnus. He doesn't deserve to know who I am. He is just a greedy alpha who will ruin the lives of thousands so that he can enjoy a few years pretending to be important. Did you just insult you? Talia interrupted Alpha Magnus as Liselli's rage amplified Talia's. That's the least you should. Kitten? Damon's voice sounded in Talia's mind. What's going on? Talia paused. Why was Damon in her head? And he sounded concerned. Damon was in a plane and Caden was telling him about the things that happened recently, in case the black runes flare again and Damon forgets about Talia. Caden's update was focused on the Dark Howlers pack and the dangers they were facing, without mentioning Talia. In that way, Damon's memory related to the pack business and dealing with Alpha Edward will be intact, even with Talia gone. Talia didn't think that their mind link would work across such a distance, and she definitely forgot that he could feel her emotions. Damon wanted to know what was going on, and Talia had no intention of telling him where she was. Nothing, Damon, Talia responded. It's just me thinking about what awaits for you at the meeting and backstabbing alphas and... I got upset. It will be fine, kitten. Damon coaxed her. His deep voice healed the cracks her anger created.
I will do everything I can to keep you safe. No one will jeopardize what we have as long as there is a fight in me.
I know. Talia knew that Damon would do everything he could, but what about her? Was she really giving it her all, or was she tiptoeing while trying not to offend anyone? Was there a scenario where everyone would be happy? Or was she supposed to look only after her interests, like Alpha Magnus and other greedy people? Regardless of what the answers were, she didn't want to worry Damon. "Focus on your thing, Damon, and I will do my part," Talia said.
All right, I miss you.
Talia smiled at his cheesy line, but the truth was that she missed him as well. "I miss you too, Damon. Stay safe and see you soon." Talia's smile froze as she realized that Alpha Magnus was looking at her with a smug expression. He assumed that she stopped talking because she was out of arguments, unaware of her exchange with Damon that just transpired. Another wave of anger simmered in Talia, this time with a dose of determination, and she asked Liselli to block those turbulent emotions from reaching Damon. He had a lot on his plate already, and Talia wanted to deal with this herself. If she can't handle one alpha, how can she stand by Damon's side and challenge many? Talia couldn't believe that Alpha Magnus would be so aloof to the consequences of his selfish actions. It's not that he didn't care about his pack, but he didn't care about anyone other than himself. Talia knew that she could suppress Alpha Magnus with a thought and force him to obey her, but was violence the only solution? Was this the time to be picky about methods to achieve goals and prevent an incoming calamity? She needed to calm down and think this through because if she acted recklessly, she would be the cause of a war, yet she came here to prevent one. Talia could feel the will of the Midnight Guardians pack. They supported her with the hope that she would lead them into a better future. And Alpha Magnus was the prime example of a man who would sell them out to the highest bidder without blinking. Heck, he would probably enslave her people so that he can use their powers for his benefit. Alpha Magnus was looking down at Talia and she hated it. Behind that desk was not an alpha of a pack. That was another bully, a person who wouldn't hold back from harming others in order to get what he wants. But was she any better? Talia was never so conflicted. Wasn't she considering doing whatever it takes in order to get her way? Didn't that make her a bully in someone's eyes? Just as she believed that her cause was right, Alpha Magnus believed that there was nothing wrong with his actions. On the other hand, they were werewolves, where power rules. What's the use of her powers if she won't use them for herself? She consoled herself that it was not only for herself. Everyone in the Light Claw pack suffered because Alpha Magnus was selfish and narrow-minded, and that pack was not the only one. Talia knew about the situation in the Red Moon pack, and after her experience in the Dark Howlers pack, she understood why people were seeking refuge under Damon's protection. Normal people didn't want to live in a place where they would be oppressed and forced to bow their heads while a handful of people enjoyed a lavish lifestyle. Damon showed Talia how an alpha works hard for his pack and that he will fight when needed. Damon didn't kiss anyone's boots, he didn't host parties, and their pack house was not encased in gold and silk. Because of his efforts and sacrifices, everyone in the Dark Howlers pack could live with dignity, regardless of their status or job. It was not perfect, far from it, but Damon did the best he could, and people supported him. Talia admired him immensely. As a stark contrast, Alpha Magnus was sitting behind that desk and mocking Talia because she came to him with a request to do the right thing without bringing gifts. Unacceptable! With this, Talia's resolve firmed. She will do the right thing for herself, for Damon, and for everyone who wants to live freely. Liselli, Talia called. Open the mind link with the Midnight Guardians pack. I want to talk to Axeland. Hold down Alpha Magnus. I don't want him to move or to say a word. Liselli didn't respond, but Talia felt her approval and the surge of energy that froze Alpha Magnus in the spot. Axel! Axel jolted when Talia's voice sounded in his head, and if they were not facing a serious situation with an uncooperative Alpha Magnus, Axel would jump with joy and probably give her a hug. Her voice in his mind meant that she accepted the mind link and their pack. Their pack. He finally got his sister back, and he was happy. "Did you bring what I asked you to?" Talia asked. Axel knew what she was talking about. "Yes." Other than the token representing the Alpha of the Midnight Guardians pack, Axel also brought several doses of a concoction that erases short-term memory. Axel explained to Talia that the concoction was something that Cassandra came up with as a way to deal with the accidental witnesses of powers that members of their pack possess. Whoever leaves the Midnight Guardians pack would carry at least one syringe with him in order to conceal the existence of their abilities. Also, there were cases when spies would follow them with the goal to find the entrance into the territory of the Midnight Guardians pack, and the memory erasing potion came in handy more than once. As for why Talia needed so many, those were part of Talia's backup plan, in case things went really wrong in the meeting of Alphas. She would make them forget what happened and use suggestions to convince them that Alpha Edward is the bad guy who shouldn't have their support. Other than Cassandra and a few of her helpers, no one knew how to make those, so Talia thought that even if she used it on Alphas in the council, no one would suspect her because no one was aware of such a thing as a memory erasing potion. Talia had no intention of defeating Alpha Edward by cheating. However, she was determined to cut off the assistance he would get to pressure Damon. When she put it in the context of protecting what's dear to her, an act of erasing the short-term memory of a dozen Alphas was acceptable. Unfortunately, the Council of the Alphas was only a few hours away, yet she had a mountain of tasks to complete, and if she was not careful, it could all blow up in her face. Big time. Talia already held Alpha Magnus in place, and she wanted to know who would support her. "Axel," Talia called through the mind link, "how far will you go to get this settled?" "Do you plan on killing Alpha Magnus?" Axel asked stiffly. Talia was surprised that Axel went to that extreme. "I hope it won't come to it." "I don't know what you are planning, but I've got your back, Talia," Axel said with amusement in his voice as he added, "Keep in mind that we can't erase the memory of the whole pack. I have only 15 doses. Talia was touched by Axel's support. He really was a doting older brother. "I don't want to erase the memory of everyone. Just one will do." Tony was anxious about this development. He knew that his father would be difficult, but he didn't think that he would be outright disrespectful. Tony was shocked to hear Talia talk back, but the biggest surprise was that Alpha Magnus didn't throw a fit, and Talia was not in the dungeon or missing a limb, or in the dungeon without limbs. Since they came to the study, it was one surprise after another, and now his father was just sitting there without moving, and Tony had no idea what to expect. "Anthony?" Talia called his full name, making him jolt in place. "Are you all right with this?" Tony had no idea what Talia was talking about. The last few minutes were a complete shit show, and Tony wondered if they would start a war now. If that happens, Kalina will blame him because Kalina really likes Talia and Maya, and he will be sandwiched between his father's wishes and everything else, like many times before. "Am I all right with what?" Tony asked cautiously. "Are you all right with letting your father hurt his people and his family?" Tony glanced nervously at Alpha Magnus, confirming that his father didn't move a muscle at this provocation, even though his eyes were flaring with anger and... Was that fear? "What can I do?" Tony asked dejectedly. "He is the Alpha. His word is the law in this pack, and unless we plan a mutiny, a murder, or a war, it will stay that way." "What if that's not the case?" Talia continued probing. "What if you could fix it? What if you could take over without spilling blood or angering anyone? Would you do it?" Tony's eyes widened in shock, What did she say? Did he hear her right? How is that possible?
Anything is possible if you want it badly enough. So, let me ask you, do you want to take over as the alpha of the Light Claw Pack and lead your people toward a future where females are not oppressed? Seeing that Tony was hesitating, Talia kept on talking. I know you can do it. You and Kalina are strong, and people will follow you. Damon and I will support you until you are confident enough to tackle things on your own.
We will support you as well, Axel chimed in, and Talia smiled in approval.
You heard Axel, Talia said. The Midnight Guardians Pack will be your ally as well, and I'm confident that Alpha Maddox also will join. You can rely on 3 alphas for guidance and support. You spoke about a future where you and Kalina will make changes for the better. This is your opportunity to make the future into right now. Tell me, Tony, are you willing? Tony blinked once, twice, and after a few endless seconds, his gaze firmed as he decided, yes. Talia was pleased that Tony agreed. Otherwise, she would need to issue an alpha challenge and perform a hostile takeover. That was her backup plan. With Tony's agreement, Talia spoke to Axel through the mind link. You know what to do. The old guy can't move a muscle. Axel got from his inner pocket a syringe and went to Alpha Magnus. What? Tony's question was cut short when Talia raised her arm. This won't harm him. Tony frowned when he saw Axel injecting Alpha Magnus with an unknown concoction, but he didn't stop it from happening. When Axel nodded at Talia that it was done, Talia stood in front of Alpha Magnus and said, Alpha Magnus, you gave so much for the Light Claw Pack and you decided to retire. You will go with Luna Alicia on a long journey and travel the world. But before that, you will hand over your alpha position to Anthony. Tony was working hard, and he has good ideas that will bring prosperity to your pack. Call your beta and the shaman. The ceremony for the new alpha will be conducted in 1 hour. Until then, you will tell Tony what he needs to know about the Council of the Alphas. Talia stepped away from Alpha Magnus, and Tony's eyes darted from Talia to his father. Tony expected that Talia would use a suppressive aura, or a weapon, or magic, or something. Anything. But she just spoke and... Do you think it will be that easy? The door of the study opened, and Beta Cage came in. Beta Cage was a tall man with a head full of gray hair and the sun-kissed skin of a man in his late 40s. His impressive physique was not hidden under the well-fitted suit he wore. Just by looking at his prideful posture that demanded respect, one would know that Beta Cage was a high-ranking member of a pack. You called for me, Alpha? Yes, Alpha Magnus confirmed. I decided to hand over my alpha position to Tony. Shaman is on his way. Get things set up and summon our people. The ceremony will be done in 1 hour. Tony gaped at his father, unable to believe that this was really happening. Another person who stared blankly at Alpha Magnus was Beta Cage. Until just a few minutes ago, they were discussing strategies to get as much as possible from Alpha Edward, and now he was stepping down? Something didn't sound right. And what was with the rush? Did they blackmail you? Alpha Magnus shook his head. The younger generation has good ideas, and it's time for us to enjoy our retirement. There is no point in waiting until we are too old to appreciate life. I want to travel the world with my mate. Beta Cage was still suspicious. Sure, it all sounded fine, but that was not how Alpha Magnus would talk. They would plan big parties for every occasion worth celebrating, using that as an opportunity to strengthen their connections. And something major like the new Alpha ceremony was done on such short notice? Didn't he say that he will remain the Alpha until he can, with Tony being a powerless pawn to bridge the gap between him and the younger generations that was emerging? And another problem was that Beta's position was tied to the Alpha he served. Alphas are made by bloodline, while Betas and Gammas are regular pack members who get a power boost after the ceremony where they're Alpha and the pack accept them.
Sure, some are born with more potential, but without getting the position, that potential would remain unused. What will happen to him after this unexpected retirement? With Beta Cage not being a beta anymore, they will need to move into one of the regular dwellings, and that would be a downgrade. Beta Cage remembered his son, Paul. They knew that Tony was not willing to make Paul his beta. But if Paul becomes a beta, they can keep their current villa. That would be good. How can he ensure that his son gets that position? Seeing that Beta Cage was not responsive, Alpha Magnus asked sternly, "Are you disobeying your Alpha?" Beta Cage was startled. This was Alpha Magnus, he knew. He quickly bowed. "I wouldn't dare. I will get everything ready." Beta Cage gritted his teeth and then his eyes lost focus. Tony couldn't wrap his head around the current situation. Did Talia make him an alpha? Just like that? What sorcery was that? After discussing a few key points with Alpha Magnus, Beta Cage, and the shaman, Axel, Talia, and Tony returned to the suite where Kalina waited for them with James, Cornelia, Yasmin, and Meg. Still in disbelief at what was happening, Tony told Kalina that she needed to prepare because she would be the Luna of the Light Claw Pack in less than an hour.
Are you serious?
Kalina asked Tony, who was shaking his head and gesturing toward Talia. Ask her, Tony said. One moment my father was his usual self, and in the next one he was summoning people to arrange for the Alpha ceremony. He looked at Kalina. This is it. You will be my Luna. We are doing this. How are we going to do this? Both Kalina and Tony turned toward Talia, their eyes full of questions. Talia realized that they were looking at her for guidance. Why her? She was not equipped for this. Everyone else in this room had more leadership experience compared to Talia, but she couldn't leave them hanging. Tony, talk to Axel about matters related to Alpha business. He took over Alpha duties recently, so he will be the best to give you advice. With this, Talia was down to one person looking at her. Kalina, you will need to reach out to Luna Alicia and find out what she has been doing so far. If she would share how she did it, that would be great. Maybe Tanya has some useful advice. Kalina agreed. Her sister just became a Luna, but Tanya has years of managing the pack. And what's most important, Kalina trusts Tanya. As for Luna Alicia
is managing the pack house.
Talia felt she could share some tips related to that. Find a few trustworthy Omegas and assign them duties. Kalina's concerned expression reminded Talia that things at the Light Claw pack were vastly different compared to the Dark Howlers pack. Here, everyone was competing for a spot. Do you have anyone you can trust? Kalina shook her head.
Omegas I interacted with are either keeping to themselves or are loyal to Luna Alicia.
That's fine, Talia assured Kalina. Things don't need to be perfect from the start. In time, you can tweak your approach and things will fall into place. I can recommend Ivy and Lily. They are hardworking and discreet. As for anything else, they will learn. Ask Ivy and Lily to start by shadowing people who are currently working under Luna Alicia and increase their responsibilities as they gain confidence. Kalina understood something.
Are you telling me to replace the staff in the pack house?
Talia shrugged. It's up to you. Do you trust them to accomplish their tasks without backstabbing you? Luna Alicia and Alpha Magnus formed a network of people that helped them guide this pack. Some of them might be fine with you taking over, but there will be many looking down on you because you are inexperienced. Don't give them a chance to sabotage you and make you look bad. Ivy and Lily have been working here for some time, and you should hear their opinions about the rest of the staff. Kalina nodded robotically. She thought she was ready for this, but now that it happened, she was utterly lost. But she couldn't admit to it. Tony needed her, and she could only say,
I will talk to Ivy and Lily and take it from there.
Do you have any advice for me? Tony asked Talia, because Axel was not very helpful. Sure, Axel told him that he should assemble generals to discuss the current situation, assess loyalty, and probably change patrolling shifts. But that was too much. Tony barely interacted with generals, and he feared that they would treat him like a child, an incompetent one. Talia looked at Tony helplessly. "Didn't you talk to Axel?" "There is a lot. Can you help me prioritize? What should I do first?" "Yes, there is a lot," Talia confirmed. "And that is why you need to pick your beta. He will ease your load." Axel frowned at this. He didn't mention picking a beta because he didn't need to pick one. Now it turned out that he was not helpful and Talia will think less of him. Tony made a troubled expression. "I was thinking between Nate and Greg which one to be my beta, but my father is pushing Paul. He is a good guy, and his father is a beta, but Paul is not a beta material." Talia didn't think that was a problem. "You shouldn't listen to your father. This is about your beta, a man who will watch your back. You need to trust him that work will be done in your absence and that he won't abuse his position." Tony agreed with this. If it was about the trust, that meant Paul was out. Actually, Tony didn't dislike Paul. They were friends, and Paul was a good guy. But the fact that Alpha Magnus and Beta Cage were pushing Paul like he was the only valid choice was rubbing Tony the wrong way. "I might give Paul some other role, but I will think about that later. How do I decide on my beta between Nate and Greg?" "Do you need to decide?" Talia asked. "Make both Nate and Greg your betas." "Two betas?" Tony asked. "Is that possible?" It was not unusual for a pack to have two betas, but that was because one was the beta and the other one was the beta's mate. Why not? This is your pack. As the alpha, your word is the law. If you say that there will be two betas, there will be two betas. Your biggest problem will be to decide on work division between Nate and Greg, but in terms of status, the two of them can be equals. Tony looked at Talia like she said something fantastic. How was it possible that she easily solved a problem that was bothering him for months? "Will you be my beta?" Talia burst into a laugh that stopped when Axel stood in front of Tony and looked at him with hostility. "You can be friends, but you can't disrespect her." Tony was flabbergasted. "How did I disrespect her?" "You are talking with the alpha of the Midnight Guardians pack," Axel said, and both Tony and Kalina turned to stare at Talia. Kalina looked around to confirm if Axel was talking nonsense, only to see that James, Cornelia, Yasmin, and Meg were not surprised by this revelation. "How? When?" Tony asked Talia. "It's a long story," Talia responded. She wanted to scold Axel for dropping this bomb, but then she decided against it because Tony was bound to find out in a few hours when Talia asked him to hitch a ride with Tony to the Council of Alphas. "Explanations will come later because you need to prepare for your ceremony, Alpha Anthony, and then pick one of your betas to accompany you because I will be joining you to the Council of Alphas with my beta." Kalina finally connected the dots and she looked at Meg. "You are beta?"
I am Talia's beta.
Meg confirmed.
Kai is Axel's.
"Axel's beta?" Tony asked. Axel confirmed. "I am Talia's proxy." "I like to think of us as equals," Talia corrected Axel and turned to Tony. "Remember, your pack, your rules. We decided to lead the Midnight Guardian pack as two alphas." Actually, Talia wanted to leave that pack to Axel and Yasmin to manage, but the more Talia felt the connection with the Midnight Guardians pack, the idea of her giving up on her position as the alpha was becoming more difficult. Why did it feel like she would abandon her children? "Wow!" Tony exclaimed. "No wonder you said how we will have support from both packs. Thank you." Talia waved her hand, indicating that it was not a big deal. "Prepare for the ceremony. We will watch it from the side. And to make sure Alpha Magnus or his minions don't try to ruin things." Talia took a mental note to keep an eye on Beta Cage, because he was one of the volatile suspects that might throw a fit when he realizes that his son didn't make the cut to be a beta, while 2 other guys did.
Tony and Kalina went to meet with Greg, Nate, Ivy, and Lily in order to share the news about their new roles and to figure out what that actually means. They didn't have much time, and everything was done in a rush, but both Tony and Kalina were running high on adrenaline. With Alpha and Luna to be out of their suite, the atmosphere calmed down. Axel and Yasmin were eager to head back to the Midnight Guardians pack.
We would love to stay for the ceremony. Unfortunately, a few days passed at home, and with only Kai and Tyler there, we feel we shouldn't delay our return unless it's necessary,
Axel said. He didn't think that Tony and Kalina would miss them with everything else going on.
I understand. Thank you for coming,
Talia responded.
Meg will return after the meeting.
Talia turned to look at the person in question.
Unless she wants to meet with her family.
Meg was aching to see her family. They were so close now. She feared that if she saw them, they would ask her to stay longer, which might be too much for Kai.
I will visit them another time with Kai,
Meg said, determined to stay in this suite so she doesn't risk bumping into them. Axel wanted to remind Talia that their people were eager to leave the realm in search of their mates, but he knew that she had a lot on her mind, so he didn't want to bring it up.
Come home after this is over,
Axel's voice sounded in Talia's head through the mind link. Talia was still not sure how to deal with the 2 home situation she found herself in.
Once Damon's condition is stable, we will visit. Until then, I will see to finalize our conditions for using the portal with the realm of the witches.
This reminded Talia.
Be careful. I believe there is a reason why the portal was closed. If you go there, be careful of Ivanora and everyone else. Don't trust them easily.
Axel was alerted.
There must be a reason you are saying that. We found a clue that points to the possibility of witches being used for breeding with werewolves in an attempt to create offspring with a wolf and with magic. I just found out about that this morning, and I will investigate it, but I have a feeling that's related to the portal being closed and why Alpha Isaac and Alpha Sophia were so adamant about keeping the existence of our powers a secret. They knew something and...
Talia paused.
And?
Axel urged her to continue.
I think that's why I ended up in the Red Moon Pack as a child. The evidence points at Alpha Edward's father. He knew about witches being used for breeding, and I believe that he was the one who brought me to the Red Moon Pack.
Axel's jaw twitched as he listened to Talia.
I will talk with... No,
Talia interrupted him.
Don't give anyone a clue that you know something. You can investigate discreetly, but leave talking for when we have more information. I really hope that previous alphas were not involved, but if they were, we shouldn't risk alerting them and giving them a chance to destroy the evidence. Thank you for trusting me with this information.
Axel was really touched. This was something that possibly incriminated their parents, who were obviously closer to Axel as he grew up with them. Yet she believed that he would do the right thing. As they were ready to leave, Yasmin gave hugs to Cornelia, Meg, and then Talia.
She is with child,
Liselli spoke in Talia's mind. Talia didn't get it.
What? I didn't sense it when she arrived because the contact was brief, but now I'm certain. You will be an aunt.
Talia gawked at Yasmin's perfectly flat abdomen.
A baby! Are you sure?
Talia asked.
Why don't you use your ability to scan the surroundings? You will be able to pick up the heartbeat. If you touch her, you can sense it better.
Talia took Yasmin's hand into hers and closed her eyes. Talia's perception shifted to see the outlines, and then she focused on Yasmin's abdomen. She needed a moment to hear 2 distinct rhythmical beats. Talia looked at Axel, who observed them with curiosity.
Congratulations, Axel. You will be a father, twice.
Axel stared at Talia for a second, and then his mouth hung open so widely that a whole fist could fit in there.
What did you say?
Yasmin asked breathily while touching her stomach.
You are pregnant, Talia said. Twins. Congratulations.
Cornelia was also shocked.
How's that possible? We saw each other only 2 days ago.
Yasmin shook her head.
You forgot about the changes in time. For you, it was 2 days. For us, it was 2 months.
Oh. Cornelia felt silly.
How did she forget that?
Meg was bouncing from excitement. She-wolves have heat that starts shortly after marking and happens every 6 months.
I had my first heat after arriving at the Midnight Guardians pack. I was under the effect of medications and supervision of healers, so Kai and I couldn't.
She didn't finish, but everyone knew what they couldn't do.
We hope for better luck next time. However, Yasmin is a witch, and her cycles are more like humans. We will have alpha pups.
Are you sure?
Axel asked Talia, while staring at Yasmin's stomach like he wished to see through it.
Axel?
Yasmin called in a small voice.
Aren't you happy?
Shocked is a better term,
Axel responded. Yasmin hugged her stomach.
Don't you want us to have babies?
Axel realized that Yasmin was upset, and he was quick to pull her into his embrace.
Of course I do. Even if we had hundreds of children, I would still want more if that's what you wanted. My shock isn't because I'm not happy. It's because I didn't think it was possible. We haven't had a child born in our pack in over 2 decades. The oracle said we were punished by the moon goddess.
Axel's voice trailed off as he turned to look at Talia.
The moon goddess punished us because we lost you.
He didn't want to say that their parents had given up on Talia.
Now that you're back, and an alpha, the curse has been lifted. You truly are a blessing to our pack.
Talia was not superstitious.
Curses? Blessings? Wasn't that just mumbo-jumbo to control the masses?
But the truth was that she could feel every member of the Midnight Guardians pack, and there were no children present. Axel was right that they didn't have any births in the last 2 decades.
Then, your babies are much more than just a new life,
Talia said.
They carry the hope for our pack that things are changing for the better. Take care of each other.
After another round of hugs and congratulations, Axel and Yasmin headed back. Cornelia was happy about Yasmin having a baby.
And it's 2 of them.
Witches also didn't have children in ages, but that was because they didn't have males to produce offspring. She wished to be there when Ivanora found out about Yasmin's pregnancy.
How will the High Priestess take it?
Talia and Meg went on the side to discuss the situation related to the upcoming Council of the Alphas, leaving Cornelia and James to sit on the sofa. James couldn't get out of his head what he overheard.
Cora, is it true that 1 day here is like a month in the Midnight Guardians pack?
Cornelia confirmed.
It's the same in my realm.
James's eyes lit up.
How about we go there? My father expects me to return in a few days, but we could stay there a few months.
Cornelia's mood dropped. After 1 week or 1 month, James was planning to return home, wherever that was, and...
Was he planning to leave her behind? Let's talk about it later. For now, we need to return to the Dark Howlers pack.
Don't you want to stay for the Alpha ceremony?
James asked Cornelia. Cornelia was not in the mood for ceremonies. Cornelia started the day with an intention to visit the human city, but because of James, they ended up stuck in a pack house, and then they went to a training center that was full of sweaty people smacking each other, and now they were here. No matter how Cornelia looked at this, she spent the whole day stuck indoors without seeing what this realm had to offer. If this is what a life with James will be, maybe she should go exploring the world on her own and leave him behind. Cornelia was back to considering her original plan of returning to the witch's realm after the pack ran into the Dark Howlers pack. As soon as Talia completes the ritual that will dispel the unwanted magic from Damon, Cornelia can leave. To her added irritation, Cornelia had a hunch that James didn't want people to know he was there. Was he really hiding from his father? If that was true, James's father was controlling and potentially dangerous.
Why do you care about the ceremony? Can you attend it? Cornelia asked dryly.
James didn't understand why Cornelia sounded upset.
I can stay in the back.
What if someone recognizes you?
This is not about me, James said. It's not every day that a pack gets a new alpha. It's quite eventful. The shaman will perform a ritual and...
I've seen plenty of rituals.
Cornelia cut him off. James exhaled helplessly.
I take this as you don't want to stay at the Light Claw pack more than necessary.
Correct.
Actually, she didn't want to stay in this realm more than necessary, but she didn't want to talk about it. Not now. James was holding Cornelia's hand and playing with her fingers, causing her irritation to flare, and Cornelia decided to go to the restroom in an attempt to calm down. With nothing else to do, James moved closer to Talia and Meg.
I am impressed, Alpha Talia, James said. Converting my father's supporter into yours was a brilliant move. Tony and Kalina will owe you a lifetime of gratitude, and the whole Light Claw pack is about to wake up to a brighter future with new leadership, assuming they don't sink the ship.
Nothing will sink, Talia said confidently. With Damon, Axel, and Maddox supporting Tony, no one will dare to touch them. James chuckled.
You speak of those three, but you forget the most powerful one.
Talia didn't comment. She knew that James was talking about her.
You are a force to be reckoned with, Alpha Talia. I pity the guy who will dare to oppose you.
Meg stifled a laugh.
You should pity your father then.
James nodded in agreement.
And not just him. With enough ambition, Alpha Talia can unite all werewolf packs into one.
I have no intention of uniting anyone, Talia was quick to say. I did this only because Alpha Magnus was threatening Damon.
Of course you did. I look forward to your visit to the Red Moon Pack when you deal with another Alpha who is threatening you,
James said with a smile that faded when his gaze moved to the bathroom door where Cornelia was. Why was she taking so long?
Can I ask you something?
Sure. Talia and Meg responded in unison.
Do you know why Cornelia is acting weird?
Was it that time of the month? But he didn't smell any blood. Talia was surprised by this. How the heck was she supposed to answer this? She was clueless about relationships, so she turned to Meg and gestured to her to take over.
Did something happen?
Meg asked. James shrugged.
We were talking about the ceremony, and then she said how she was not interested in watching it. There must be something else,
Meg said.
What else? I suggested that we go to the Midnight Guardians pack because then I don't need to return so soon. I wanted to spend more time with her. Was that wrong? And after that?
James didn't get it.
Nothing. She said that she is not interested in the ceremony. No. I meant you will go to the Midnight Guardians pack, and what will happen after that? One way or another, you will need to return to the Red Moon pack, right?
James nodded, and Talia's expression lit up when she understood where Meg was going with this. How does Cornelia fit into that picture? Talia asked, and she made a face when James didn't respond after a second. Are you serious about Cornelia?
Of course,
James responded without missing a beat. Then you should tell her. When I met Damon, my wolf was weak, and I couldn't feel the bond. Damon and I had a lot of misunderstandings because he was sending me signals I either misread or missed completely. Cornelia can feel the bond, but you can't. Tell her what it means to you, what she means to you, and what you plan to do about it. James gaped at Talia like she was saying something outrageous. And it was outrageous because it was so simple, yet he missed it completely. James was always confident in his observation skills and ability to deduce information, yet now when it counted, he failed miserably. Did the mate bond turn him stupid? Since they arrived at the Light Claw Pack, James was just sitting by Cornelia's side and holding her hand, and he didn't even notice what was going on around him or what was going on with the woman whose hand he was holding. He missed his mark completely. All of them. Oh God! His intelligence deteriorated. By how much? Was it critical? The bathroom door opened, and James was quick to move there and grab Cornelia's hand.
Let's go back,
He said.
You are eager to return? What happened with watching the ceremony?
I want us to go to a place where we can have privacy to talk, Cora. I need to tell you things so you understand who I am and what I can offer.
Which was not much, because when he removed the identity of the future alpha of the Red Moon Pack, it was just him, a 16-year-old boy with a lot in his head and a small savings account, and that was it. But he didn't want to keep secrets from Cornelia. If they were really mates, she will accept him, and they will figure things out. Somehow.
Tony was in the back of a modified van with his newly appointed beta Nate, Talia, and Meg. The ceremony of appointing the new Alpha and Luna of the Light Claw Pack was finalized, and they didn't have much time to celebrate before they left to attend the Council of Alphas. Talia asked Tony for a ride, and Tony offered to let them all go in one of the vehicles that belonged to the Alpha. Alpha Magnus enjoyed the latest luxuries that money can buy, saying how his image reflects the image of the Light Claw Pack. Now that Alpha Magnus is retired, all those fancy toys belong to Tony and Kalina. Tony and Nate were facing Talia and Meg, each sitting in a comfortable leather seat that reclined fully and offered accessories that could be nicely tucked in when not in use. Tony looked at Talia with awe. For years, Tony was using Damon as a role model of a capable alpha who could overcome any obstacle. During their visit to the Dark Howlers Pack, Tony was focused on his training and trying to impress Damon, like a fangirl who got a chance to spend time with her celebrity crush. Tony never paid much attention to Talia, thinking of her as Kalina's friend. But in the last few hours, Tony realized that he made a mistake. Talia was a powerhouse. How come he didn't see it? Even if he didn't have a sense for such things, and even if he considered Damon's care for Talia as something that mates do, Tony definitely saw that Axel and Maddox were paying close attention to Talia, and everyone was gathering around her. At that time, Tony suspected that people were kind to Talia because she was Damon's mate, the future Luna of the Dark Howlers Pack. Tony cursed himself. He was wrong. He was so wrong. Talia was right in front of him, yet he didn't see it. What else did he miss? This same evening, Tony listened to Talia defending him in front of his father and talking back to Alpha Magnus. That was something Tony was never able to do. Even as his parents were leaving for vacation, Tony was full of bitterness, but the only thing he could do was wish them a safe trip. They will be gone by the time he leaves, and then he and Kalina will have free hands to do whatever they want as Alpha and Luna of the Light Claw Pack. It was surreal, and it was all thanks to Talia. But Talia did so much more than just talking. She solved his problems, and she seemed so capable. And what was he? He could disregard his alpha bloodline, but can he disregard the fact that he is a man? Talia saved his whole pack and put them on another trajectory, one Tony feared he would ruin, but Talia assured him that he would have the necessary support to be successful. Tony saw himself as a failure, the biggest one there is. How was he capable of leading a pack? Are you worried about the upcoming meeting? Talia asked Tony, who snapped to look at her. He was worried about much more than just a meeting, but he didn't want to admit it. Aren't you? What's the worst that can happen? Talia asked with a smile. I don't know, Tony said with a shrug. How about a war and our society falling apart? That will happen if we don't do something about it, Talia said. If you didn't notice, the greedy people in power are getting more powerful, absorbing the ones that don't resist and taking forcibly the rest while regular people suffer. So we fight? Tony asked without an ounce of determination. We are about to face hostile alphas who have power, real power. What are our odds of winning? Talia didn't like Tony's deflated attitude. He didn't sound or look like an alpha. If he was this timid, how would others follow him? Even Nate's head was lowered, and Talia was not sure if it was fear or shame, or maybe something else. However, Talia understood that Tony suffered from a lack of confidence. She was there, in that dark place where she felt unworthy, and Damon was the one who encouraged her to try and give her all. Maybe this was her opportunity to give a pep talk to Tony and his beta. You don't need to fight if you are fine with people like Alpha Magnus and Alpha Edward telling you what to do. You have an alpha bloodline, and as long as you are obedient, your life won't be so bad. But can you really live like that if people around you are suffering? You saw how things are in the Dark Howlers pack, and the fact that so many people are coming in daily seeking refuge should tell you what they want. A normal person is not interested in a fancy lifestyle and lazing around. They crave a safe environment, a roof over their heads, and a meal on the table, and they are willing to work for it. As an alpha, you need to provide them with such conditions. So yes, when someone wants to take basic freedoms from our people, we fight. Tony looked at Talia seriously. She spoke with conviction. Will he ever be able to match that? You are an alpha now, Talia said. Don't you feel the connection with your pack? Tony placed a hand over his chest and nodded. Those are their feelings, their faith in you and Lena. Use it to boost your courage when you think that you have reached your limits, because if you give up, there will be no one else to fight for your people. How do you know so much? Tony asked. Talia smiled. Damon showed me what it means to be an alpha. I always thought that alphas were about parties, bossing around, and fights. I could imagine him in a bloody fight to get his way. But after I arrived at the Dark Howlers pack, I realized that Damon is the one who wakes up at dawn and heads to his office, and then goes to the training grounds. That's the Damon outsiders don't know about, because they only see him when he is out to have fun. Damon is not the smartest, the fastest, or the strongest, but he works hard, always with his people and for his people. Talia stared into the darkness through the window, and her brows came together as she continued. Even now, he went to that meeting, knowing that many alphas will try to take what's his, yet he will face them and do his best. I guess that's what being an alpha is, doing your best. I want to do what's best for my people and for my mate. I know that I am not strong enough, and I'm definitely not smart enough, but I am not alone. She turned to look at Tony. And neither are you. Use the will of your people to boost your determination, and use your friends and allies to find the best solution, and it will be all right.
I wish I recorded this.
Meg's excited voice came from the side, and after a second of silence, the whole van burst into laughter, diffusing the heavy atmosphere and replacing it with a light one. Tony and Nate looked at each other and exchanged nods while silently agreeing with Talia. They were not alone, and it will be all right. The Council of the Alphas could be summoned in any of several locations that were hosting inconspicuous buildings, which could be easily missed if one didn't know where to look. The amenities included rooms where alphas could gather in a formal and informal setting, and also rooms where alphas could rest. Every location was staffed with a number of werewolves who didn't belong to any specific pack, and people addressed them as guardians. Their tasks were to maintain the buildings and to serve alphas during meetings, and other than that, the guardians were neutral, and everyone treated them like national treasures that can't be touched. Normally, These places would be used in a time of crisis or a war where opposing sides would meet to negotiate. The Guardians ensured that matters here were settled peacefully, and some rumors spoke that they were immune to Alpha Aura and they possessed unbeatable fighting skills, so even Alphas looked at them with respect. The building where the Council of Alphas assembled this time had a lounge that was decorated with dark red walls and bulky purple furniture that sat on the stone floor. One long, dark brown block of polished wood served as a bar, and there were several sitting areas defined by sofas and chairs arranged in circles. That was where Alphas and their Betas gathered while waiting for the meeting to start. Alpha Christian and his Beta Imre arrived to see Damon, Caden, Maddox, and Maddox's Beta Oliver sitting at the bar. He didn't care about other people.
I'm glad to see we are not late,
Alpha Christian said while exchanging greetings with 4 people, and then he took a seat on Maddox's right. The assembly was summoned for dawn, which should be soon, but there was no exact hour mentioned.
Do we know who else is missing?
Alpha Christian said.
We heard that 12 packs confirmed attendance, but we don't know who they are.
Beta Oliver responded.
With you, we have 9 alphas,
Maddox grumbled.
I see. 3 more to go,
Alpha Christian said, and waved at the bartender to give him a drink. Damon was sipping his amber-colored drink while looking at the people present through the mirror behind the bar. He knew they were watching him, waiting for him to lose composure, to give them a reason to oust him. But he had so much on his mind that this curveball from Alpha Edward was not much. Yes, Damon's stomach churned at the possibility of a war, because that meant casualties that could be avoided if those greedy bastards would stick to their territories. But Damon was mostly concerned about the fact that black runes were there, just under his skin, waiting to strike when he least expected it and make him forget the most important person in his life. The period when he couldn't remember Talia was like a living nightmare for Damon. He was confused and disoriented, and he didn't forget only about his mate, but he forgot about himself. He didn't want to go back there, and the fact that Talia was not by his side and he couldn't reach her via their mind link or feel her emotions was unsettling. Damon downed his drink and gestured to the bartender to give him another. The 9 alphas were separated into 3 distinct groups. Damon was with his confirmed allies, Maddox and Christian, at the bar. The 3 of them cooperated many times before, and their core values align enough that they trust each other not to go back on their word no matter what the other party offers them. 2 alphas were sitting on one sofa in the corner, Alpha Robert and Alpha Patrick. Their 2 packs were the smallest ones among the packs that were members of the Council of Alphas. Damon guessed they were neutral and would side with the majority. In the middle of the lounge on the largest sofa were Alpha Edward, Alpha Richard, aka Cassie's father, Alpha Peter, and Alpha William. The 4 of them talked in a light atmosphere, occasionally throwing glances toward Damon, and Damon pretended not to notice them. He knew very well that those 4 were power-hungry and eager to see him fall. But what he didn't know was what kind of agreement those 4 reached, nor what their strategy would be so that they could be so easygoing. Every alpha was flanked by his beta who observed, measured, and reported to his alpha every detail. The door opened with an announcement.
Alpha Adam Hessen and Beta Milo from the Silver Fur Pack.
Alpha Adam was a man in his mid-50s with a sturdy build and straight posture, but what gave away his position of power was his unwavering gaze that moved over everyone present. After a few seconds, Alpha Adam decided to move toward the bar with his eyes locked on Damon. Damon was surprised by this interesting development. The Silver Fur Pack was 8th in size, and they wouldn't take sides in any conflict. So Damon assumed that Alpha Adam would either join 2 neutral alphas on the sofa or pick a separate seating for himself and his beta.
Jade is Beta Milo's daughter.
Caden's voice sounded in Damon's head, and Damon groaned in irritation when he connected the dots.
Jade, of course.
How could he forget the she-wolf model who suggested that they pretend to date so that her father allows her to pursue her career? Just like everyone else, Alpha Adam wanted to make a firm alliance with Damon, but he had 2 sons, and since Damon was not gay, they agreed to push Jade onto his lap because she was still Beta's daughter. Jade was easy on the eyes, so Damon went on a date with her. They shared a meal and a bed, and then parted ways until Jade called him with a proposition to pretend to date, and for a brief moment, Damon considered it. That was before he met Talia, and Caden quickly burst that fake dating bubble. Caden reminded Damon that once a female is in, it's a headache to shake her off. Every she-wolf is attracted to power and riches, and Jade won't be any different once she experiences the perks of people who think of her as the future Luna of the Dark Howlers pack. After Damon remembered those details, he understood why Alpha Adam was approaching him openly. Alpha Edward probably reached out to them in an attempt to buy Alpha Adam's vote, and that revealed that Damon was in trouble, and the old bastard was hoping to use this situation as leverage for Jade to put her leg through the door of being his Luna. Alpha Adam greeted everyone with a big smile on his face before turning to Damon.
Alpha Damon, we meet again.
Damon turned to face the man before returning the greeting dryly.
It seems we will be in a position to collaborate again,
Alpha Adam said. Damon was not in the mood for baseless nonsense.
I don't remember us collaborating previously.
Alpha Adam frowned. He was confident that Damon would get the hints by now. Or did Damon want him to be more obvious?
The word is that you met some kind of trouble, and we can help.
The way Alpha Adam looked smugly at his beta made Damon's insides churn.
Don't blame them, Caden said. It's a smart move to ask for favors now when you are in a pinch. We don't know who are the other 2 alphas coming, but if Alpha Adam sides with us, we will even the numbers with Alpha Edward among the current crowd.
They want me to make Jade my Luna,
Damon reminded Caden.
That's his bargaining chip, and he hopes I'm desperate enough to take the deal.
You don't need to accept,
Caden said cautiously.
As long as you are ambiguous now.
Damon didn't hear the rest. Just the thought of Jade flaunting her status as Damon's anything made Damon's temper flare to the point of wanting to punch someone. How can Jade compare to Talia? No one compares to Talia. No one! Damon's insides churned as he wondered, would he accept the deal if he didn't remember Talia? How would he scrape that dirt? Even if Talia forgave him, he would never forgive himself. The idea of him causing Talia pain again and making her act like his assistant or anything other than his equal was making him feel like his heart was being torn out of his chest. The glass in Damon's hand burst, making a mess of amber liquid and glass shards on the bar counter. There was some blood as well, as a piece of glass was stuck in his palm. Damon pulled the glass out and waved at the bartender to clean the mess and give him another drink.
It seems my state of mind is not the best to discuss collaborations, Alpha Adam.
Alpha Adam's smile froze. Was Damon rejecting him? Alpha Christian turned to ask everyone present.
When are we going to start?
2 more alphas are on their way. They will be here within minutes.
One of the guardians that was standing at the door responded. Alpha Edward was eager for those 2 remaining alphas to come. He was confident that one of the 2 was Alpha Magnus from the Light Claw pack because they spoke the previous evening. As for the last alpha coming, Alpha Edward didn't know who it would be because responses were kept by the guardians. But he didn't care who it was because he was confident that he would have the necessary majority to move on with his agenda. Alpha Edward knew about Alpha Adam's plan that involved Jade, and after seeing Alpha Adam's sour expression that matched his betas, Alpha Edward was confident that Jade would fail in becoming Damon's Luna. After all, Damon rejected so many better candidates, and Jade was not known for the virtues required for a Luna. Why would Damon want to give status to a female who was set on traveling and exposing her body on a catwalk and in magazines? On top of that, Jade had numerous confirmed previous relationships, so there was that. The door opened again with an announcement.
Alpha Anthony Ambert and Beta Nathan from the Light Claw Pack.
Everyone gaped at two young men who entered, unsure if they heard this right. Alpha Edward's mind was spinning, and he was not aware that he was walking toward Tony and Nate.
Since when are you the Alpha?
Alpha Edward asked sternly, like he was addressing two mischievous boys. Tony patted the token that was attached to the breast pocket of his jacket. My father retired and I'm the Alpha now. Tony was surprised that his voice was steady. He actually sounded confident. Talia told him to look at everyone like they are trash that can't touch him, and the strategy worked.
Impossible. How could this happen?
Alpha Edward exclaimed. Tony looked at the man for a moment before asking, what makes it impossible for an Alpha to give the position to his son? I am of age and I have my fated mate. Didn't you attend the event last month where we celebrated Kalina as my future Luna? Are you so old that you forgot? Maddox snickered at Tony's snarky remark, and everyone wondered if Alpha Edward would explode. But how can Alpha Edward cause trouble? If it goes beyond bickering and provocations, the Guardians will make their move, and they might expel him from the meeting, and that would ruin everything. Seeing that Alpha Edward was not responding, Tony lifted his chin smugly. As for how I became the Alpha of my pack, relevant people know about it because they attended my Alpha ceremony.
Do you mind?
Nate's voice sounded from behind Tony.
You're blocking the way.
Alpha Edward took a step back reluctantly, and Tony and Nate passed as they walked toward the bar. Tony shook hands with Maddox, Damon, Christian, and Adam, and Maddox asked,
Seriously? When did that happen?
He pointed at the token that was hanging on Tony's breast pocket. Tony leaned closer to Maddox and spoke in a low voice.
I could tell you, but then I will need to kill you.
Before Maddox could say more, Tony raised his hand, indicating to Maddox to wait. This is not the place to discuss such things. He had no intention of telling anyone what transpired in his father's study. Damon was also curious. What trick did Tony pull for the old man to give him the spot? Damon knew very well that Alpha Magnus had no desire to retire, yet here was Tony, with his hair slicked back and a sharp suit and a token representing his pack. Did Alpha Magnus lose his mind? Damon knew that Tony didn't have the power nor mental fortitude to lead a pack. Seeing that everyone was looking at him with a bunch of unspoken questions, Tony smiled smugly. Talia told Tony that he was the only Alpha in attendance who knew about her identity as the Alpha of the Midnight Guardians pack, and that made him feel important. He decided to give a small teaser in the form of, I can tell you that me coming here as an Alpha is not the biggest surprise for today. Maddox's mouth formed an O shape as his eyes sparkled with curiosity.
Alpha Damon,
Alpha Adam called grimly.
Only one more Alpha needs to come before we start the meeting. I think you know what kind of a deal I want.
Damon was exasperated. Why was this guy set on spoiling Damon's already bad mood?
And what kind of a deal is that?
It's about Jade,
Beta Milo said.
She is interested in you and the two of you have history.
Tony's exaggerated sound interrupted whatever Beta Milo was about to say next. I will assume you didn't hear that Alpha Damon already has an awesome woman by his side. If you know what's good for you, you will stop pimping your daughter. Everyone gaped at Tony. Since when was he that brave?
What did you say?
Beta Milo asked Tony grimly. Tony's composure cracked for a second, but then he responded. I only spoke the truth. We are all Alphas here. Was any of us pressured to take a random female as his Luna? If you think your daughter is worthy of being the chosen mate to Alpha Damon, she should earn that position on her own. What you are doing is not right. Maddox put his hand on Tony's shoulder and gave it a supportive squeeze before adding, "Actually, considering Damon's current situation, I would call it blackmail."
I agree,
Christian chimed in. "If you are here trying to get Jade to be an Omega who will clean the kitchen, no one would say a word. However, you want to attach her to Damon as his Luna. That holds a lot of weight. Did any of us get our current position because we made a deal? We all earned it. Luna is the one who proved herself as worthy by being better than the others, or because the moon goddess said so. If Damon accepts an undeserving female to accompany him, it will ruin his pack. Is that what you are trying to do here? To ruin the Dark Howler's pack?" Alpha Adam and his beta were both furious. They were surrounded by youngsters who were looking down on them. Damon was pleased that his friend spoke up and shut down those two pesky people. There was nothing left to say. Damon got his next glass filled with amber liquid when the door opened with an announcement. "Alpha Talia Moonrider and Beta Megan from the Midnight Guardians pack." This time, the glass from Damon's hand fell on the stone floor and broke into a million pieces. Damon wondered if his ears malfunctioned, but then he saw a familiar figure in a dark gray knee-length pencil skirt and a matching blouse, and her hair was lifted into a neat bun, and that was his kitten. She wore high heels and light makeup that added a few years to her appearance, and she had a shiny token hanging on the left side of her blouse, but that was definitely her. Talia. "Surprise!" Talia's voice sounded in Damon's head, and he could hear that she was smiling, even though her expression was serious as she made her way to sit on an empty sofa with Meg one step behind her. Damon was pulled out of his shock when Maddox smacked his shoulder with much more force than necessary. "Is that?" Caden's exaggerated cough cut off Maddox's question, which was definitely related to Talia. Maddox looked at Caden, and it took him a moment to realize his almost mistake. Talia didn't approach them because she wanted to conceal her identity. "Another one, Alpha Damon?" the bartender asked sourly. Damon was more spilling than drinking, and he already broke 2 glasses for no apparent reason. Damon gestured that he wanted another one. With Talia showing up in this den of wolves, he definitely needed a drink. "Why are you here?" Damon asked Talia while peeling his eyes from her with difficulty. He didn't want to stare at her, fearing that his expression would blow her cover. But the fact that he looked away made him the odd one because all other eyes were on Talia. He used the mirror behind the bar to look at her. She was beautiful. "I heard that alphas are gathering, so I thought of joining. Did you miss me?" Damon caught her gaze in the mirror, and he couldn't believe this. Was she flirting with him? In this situation? Did she know how dangerous this was? "You should leave. Now," Damon said ominously. "Not without you," Talia responded. "I know that you want me to stay home and be safe while waiting for you, but I can't be safe knowing that you are facing the storm. Didn't you say that we are equals?" "This is not about being equals, kitten," Damon said, his voice much softer than before. "This is about all these people ripping you into pieces if they find out that something is wrong." "What could go wrong?" Talia asked. Damon groaned as a million bad outcomes flashed in his mind. "I knew that Keith would be useless as your guard. You probably winked at him, he fainted, and all others wished you a safe journey. Or are they outside waiting for you with banners of support while you risk your life here? And how did you reach here without a plane? And—" "Damon," Talia interrupted him. "This is not about Keith and others being useless, but about me being capable. Cornelia used her magic to transport me here, but before that, I made a quick stop to the Light Claw pack." Damon immediately understood one thing. "You did something for Tony to become Alpha." This was worse than he thought. Damon reached for the glass that the bartender gave him. He really needed that drink. Talia didn't deny it. I wanted to talk to Alpha Magnus to make him see the reason, but he was stubborn and one thing led to another. Don't worry, nothing happened. Damon sprayed a mouthful of whiskey all over the bar. Everyone at the bar looked at him questioningly, the bartender included, but Damon was busy arguing with Talia through the mind link.
Nothing happened? You toppled the leadership of another pack. That's war.
There will be no war. I was careful. Axel was with me.
Axel,
Damon grumbled.
so he could come with you and I was left in the dark?
If I told you, would you let me? Talia asked. Damon jabbed his hand into his hair. He knew she was right. He wouldn't let her, but there was a reason for it.
It was safer for you to stay home. This is only for alphas, and you can't expect that people will allow you to stick around.
What can they do? I have the token that proves I'm the alpha.
This is more than just a token, kitten. There is a device to check if you are a real alpha.
Damon said dejectedly. He assumed that she was here because Axel gave her his token, and Damon was ready to punish Axel severely for enabling Talia to join this shit show.
We need to find a way to get you out of here. I will create a diversion and you... Damon, do you trust me?
Talia interrupted him.
With my life,
He responded without missing a beat. But he was not sure if he trusted her with her life. I can feel that you are worried for me, for us, for our pack. But you are not alone. Let me do as much as I can, Talia pleaded, and she let him feel through their mate bond all the love and admiration she had for him. I have a lot of things to tell you, Damon. Let's talk when this is over, and until then, trust me. Damon released a frustrated breath. He wanted to argue and talk some sense into her, but how can he say no to his kitten?
Caden saw that Damon's expression was changing and it dawned on him.
You can communicate with Talia?
Caden asked through their pack mind link. Damon smiled a little.
since marking.
The second marking, but Damon didn't want to go into details. Caden had never heard of such a thing, but he had never seen werewolves glowing either. With Talia, anything was possible. She was just one surprise after another.
What does Talia say? Why is she here? Is she really the alpha of the Midnight Guardians pack?
I don't know, Caden. She asked me to trust her.
And you don't?
Damon was aware that Talia could probably suppress them all with her aura. However, Damon knew that Talia was a gentle soul, and he knew how vicious some alphas can be. Other than a few people who were sitting there with him, everyone was waiting for Talia to trip and fall on her face. Alpha Richard was the one who hired mercenaries to snoop about Talia's identity, and he hated her for the embarrassment he endured at the Light Claw pack. And there was Alpha Edward, one of the reasons why she spent most of her life hiding in the attic. Every fiber of Damon's being screamed to go there, wrap Talia in his embrace, and protect her from everything.
I think that she is way over her head,
Damon said to Caden.
I disagree,
Caden responded.
I think that Talia is smarter and stronger than you give her credit for.
Do you think I'm underestimating her?
No, but I think that you are overestimating yourself,
Caden said.
This is not a fight you can win by yourself. Talia knows that, and she wouldn't be here without a plan. Yesterday, you announced to our warriors that she should be treated as an alpha, your equal. Did you change your mind already? She surprised us many times so far, and I have a feeling that she will perform another miracle.
Caden regretted that Maya was not here to see whatever Talia was about to pull out of her sleeve.
Will it include more glowing?
Maybe he should record it so Maya can see it later. Damon looked at Caden thoughtfully.
You are right. Talia visited the Light Claw pack before coming here.
Caden's eyes widened.
Tony mentioned that him coming here as an alpha was not the biggest surprise. He knew that Talia was coming. Was she behind Alpha Magnus's sudden retirement?
When Damon confirmed,
Caden really regretted that Maya was not present. She would enjoy this so much. Damon used the mirror behind the bar to see that everyone was stealing glances at Talia and Meg, and Alpha Edward was staring at them openly. Alpha Edward was in shock to find out that Alpha Magnus was replaced, but now another new face showed up. Talia's last name matched with the Alpha family from the Midnight Guardians pack, but he never heard Alpha Isaac or Alpha Sophia mention a daughter. Or was she Axel's mate who took his last name? That was a possibility, but then Axel should attend this meeting and not his mate. Alpha Edward wanted to rip off that scarf that was around Talia's neck. He was unable to check if she was marked with that fabric covering her up. "Since everyone is here," a guardian spoke from the door, "the meeting will start in 10 minutes. Alpha Edward gave a meaningful look to Alpha Richard and then tilted his head toward Talia, silently giving an order for Alpha Richard to investigate the situation there. Alpha Richard knew very well what Alpha Edward wanted, and with a stiff smile, he walked toward Talia.
Alpha Talia, right?
Alpha Richard called, and Talia looked up at the man, wondering if he would recognize her as the woman who embarrassed him and his daughter, aka Cassie, at the Luna announcement ceremony at the Light Claw Pack. Based on the polite tone Alpha Richard used, Talia guessed that he had no idea who she was. Perfect. "Yes," Talia responded questioningly. Alpha Richard cleared his throat awkwardly because Talia was still sitting on that sofa, and he was standing.
"I am Alpha Richard from the Steelbite Pack."
Talia nodded in acknowledgement of his words but didn't say anything else. Alpha Richard felt like slapping her. He is her senior. Why was that skinny girl not showing him respect?
"I was wondering if you know what this gathering is about."
Talia tilted her head. I responded to the summon because I guessed it was important. Did I miss something?
"We are here to discuss the unruly behavior of some alphas and to sanction them appropriately,"
Alpha Richard said cryptically. Talia's eyes widened. Did someone complain about my pack? She turned to Meg. How come I didn't hear about it?
No,
Alpha Richard was quick to say.
"It's about someone else."
I see, Talia said. I look forward to seeing the evidence.
"Evidence?"
Alpha Richard asked, and looked at Alpha Edward, who didn't move from his spot, but he was obviously listening in. Yes, evidence, Talia confirmed. If the Council of Alphas was summoned to discuss someone's actions with no evidence, it's just slander. We are all busy people with no time for dealing with gossip. My time away from the matters I should attend to costs money and potentially puts my pack in danger. If you are wasting my time, I expect to be compensated. Alpha Richard stared at Talia, unsure if he understood her right.
"What?"
Talia exhaled irritably and glanced at Meg. Meg took that as a cue to speak.
Why do you look confused? My alpha said that this should be important, and it better be supported by evidence. Otherwise, we are all wasting our time here and someone should pay for it.
At the bar, Maddox chuckled and elbowed Tony with, "Aren't you bummed that she is not your beta?" Yes! Tony wanted Meg to be his beta, but Nate was right there, so he couldn't say that. Every person has his strengths, Tony responded politically. Alpha Christian leaned closer to Damon so they were not overheard. Alpha Adam and his beta were gone, but with everyone having werewolf hearing, he still lowered his voice to say,
I think I know why you kept your mate a secret so far. She is worth stealing.
Damon narrowed his eyes at Alpha Christian, but he didn't respond. His kitten was awesome. Alpha Richard didn't understand what Talia was trying to say. Was she a righteous person who expected evidence, or was just compensation enough to win her vote? But he couldn't clarify that in front of everyone. Alpha Richard was aware of their audience as everyone was eavesdropping. He leaned closer to Talia and asked in a low voice,
"Do you mind if we step outside and talk in private?"
Talia cocked an eyebrow. I apologize, Alpha Richard, but you are not my type. Damon sprayed a mouthful of whiskey on the bar again, and the bartender's frown told him that he won't be getting any more drinks. He was just wasting it. Alpha Richard was flabbergasted. Why did Talia make it sound like he was making a move on her? Everyone was now openly looking at Alpha Richard and Talia, and they clearly heard Damon spitting out his drink, which was followed by snickering from Maddox, Tony, and other people who were there. Alpha Richard glanced toward the bar angrily before looking at Talia.
That is not what I meant.
Talia looked at the man innocently. Did I misunderstand? I thought you wanted me somewhere private.
To talk.
Alpha Richard said irritably.
Right.
Talia drawled sarcastically. Still, I will decline. We are not familiar with each other.
You are misunderstanding something. I only want to talk.
If it's just talking, why can't it be done here? Talia responded with a question. The fact that you want privacy is telling me you are up to no good. I heard about your reputation, Alpha Richard, and I was warned not to be alone with you in places that provide privacy.
Alpha Richard was furious.
Talia's words made him sound like a lecherous man who would go after girls who barely came of age. He liked his women more mature, all right? And it's not like he would just go at it without restraints. Actually, among the alphas, his reputation for womanizing was low. And then it hit him. She was doing this on purpose, and the fact that she was still sitting was rubbing him the wrong way.
You will regret this.
He squeezed through his teeth. Are you threatening me? Talia asked Alpha Richard, and then she turned to Meg. It seems that our relationship with the Steelbite Pack is worse than we thought. Talia craned her neck to see the two guardians that were at the door. How far can he go? If he decides to attack me, am I allowed to defend myself? When Talia and Meg arrived, they were welcomed by two guys who told them a few points about the council and how violence won't be tolerated. Alpha Richard swiftly lifted his hands, palms toward Talia, and took a step back.
Let's stop this here before things escalate.
Talia frowned a little. You approached me. You started it. It's only fair that you finish. But can you just walk away as if nothing happened?
What do you expect me to do?
He asked with urgency.
You should at least apologize,
Meg said from the side. Alpha Richard nearly choked on his saliva.
I should what?
Apologize, Tony said while approaching them, and Nate was one step behind him. You came here and threatened Alpha Talia when she refused to leave the lounge with you. We all heard you. The least you can do is apologize, but just words aren't enough. I think that an annual tribute would be in order for the next 10 years. It's a good way to show sincerity and a reminder for you so it doesn't happen again. Alpha Richard couldn't believe this. A tribute? He was already having a headache because of the tribute to the Dark Howlers Pack that came with an excessive amount of embarrassment. And now Tony was talking nonsense about how there should be another one?
What's in it for you?
Alpha Richard snapped at Tony. Tony was high on adrenaline. Showing up here among alphas with no one daring to scold him got into his head. Talia told Tony that she would stay away from Damon, Maddox, and Christian so that people wouldn't guess her identity. But Tony was a free agent. Talia made him an alpha, and what kind of a person would he be if he just stayed and watched as his father's so-called allies mistreated her? Talia told Tony that this meeting was about vultures going at Damon, and they will be extra careful not to provoke others so that Damon doesn't get more allies. She also told him to keep his head high because people won't see him as a person. They will see him as an alpha of a pack, and no one will dare go too far out of fear of starting a war. As for Tony, he was eager to test the limits and find out how far that too far Talia spoke about was. Tony stood in front of Alpha Richard now, and somehow, Tony appeared to be taller than before. Alpha Talia and my Luna are close friends, and by extension,
I consider Alpha Talia my friend as well. How can my people respect me as their alpha if my friend gets bullied in front of me and I don't interfere? Alpha Richard glanced around to see if anyone else would interfere, but everyone just stood and watched, which made him feel awkward. He cursed internally when he realized that people were waiting for one of the parties involved to make a mistake, and with Tony coming to back up Talia, Alpha Richard was at a disadvantage. But he was not a greenhorn who didn't know how to twist the situation.
Does Alpha Talia need you to speak for her?
Alpha Richard asked. Of course not, but I am a gentleman. I can't stand on the side and watch as a pretty lady gets harassed, Tony said like it's a totally normal thing. A crisp sound of glass breaking was heard as Damon crushed the glass he was holding onto. Calm down, love, Talia's voice sounded in Damon's head. His fury fizzled away when he realized that she called him love, but
how can I calm down when another man is your shield and he called you a pretty lady? Are you bothered that Tony called me pretty, or that he came to my aid so that Alpha Richard and his cronies don't make the connection between the two of us?
Damon cursed under his breath. When she put it that way, he ended up being the unreasonable one. But Damon wanted to be the one giving Talia compliments and protecting her. You are not alone, Talia continued. We are not alone. I am glad that Tony stepped out, because if all of our friends do the same, it will be difficult for Alpha Edward to point fingers at any of us. Alpha Richard mumbled an apology to Talia with, I suggest that we all take a step back and think about what's at stake here. If necessary, we can talk about this further after our meeting. Talia nodded in agreement, and Alpha Richard was not happy about this outcome where he needed to retreat first. He consoled himself with the thought of how Talia will soon see who the power players are, and she will be the one apologizing. Alpha Edward was watching this scene and he didn't like this, not even a little bit. Tony was obviously on good terms with Damon, and with Tony stepping up to defend Talia, there were high chances that the Midnight Guardians pack would side with Damon, and that meant Alpha Edward's majority became shaky.
It is time,
a guardian from the door, he announced.
Please move to the conference room so that the meeting can start.
Before we head out, I want to ensure that everyone here is an alpha, Alpha Edward exclaimed, making everyone turn to look at him. Damon felt pride swelling in his chest at the way Talia commanded this group of alphas. She looked at them without shrinking, and he really wanted to build the shiniest pedestal in the world and put her on it so that everyone could see how amazing she is. Talia felt Damon's support washing over her, and it reinforced her resolve not to crack. She lifted her chin proudly and said, I'm not the one to bully people with excessive demands, but considering the amount of trouble I would get if I failed the test, I agree with my beta. A kneeling apology will suffice. Seeing that Alpha Edward hesitated, Talia decided to push his buttons. Why are you not agreeing? A minute ago, you were confident that I'm an imposter who doesn't belong here. If you are right, there won't be a need for apologies or—
I agree,
Alpha Edward interrupted Talia's chatter. Good, Talia exclaimed. Now I want to see who else wants me to take this test.
Wait a minute,
Damon said from the side, making everyone look at him.
Why are you meddling?
Alpha Edward hissed. Damon approached the group that was now forming a circle around Talia and Meg.
I see that you and Alpha Talia are negotiating,
Damon said without removing his gaze from Alpha Edward.
If she passes the test, she gets an apology from alphas who doubt her, and if she fails, you get to kick her out. But I have a feeling that it should be more than just words.
Alpha Edward frowned.
What are you talking about?
Damon stuffed his hands into his pants pockets and looked at Alpha Edward smugly.
The two of you are wasting our time. It's been hours since I left my pack to come here, and I still have no idea why. And now you are arranging this play that I need to watch without any benefits. Why would I care if you and a few more get on your knees?
Alpha Edward's face darkened. You want benefits? Isn't it in everyone's interest to confirm that?
Talia clapped her hands loudly.
Alpha Damon is right, she exclaimed. I apologize for not realizing that alphas won't be happy with just watching without participating.
Alpha Edward looked at her like she lost her mind.
You want people to participate? Didn't we agree that not everyone needs to do the test in order to save time? You already wasted so much time that a few more minutes won't make a difference, Alpha Christian chimed in. Let Alpha Talia speak. I am curious about her idea, especially if it will bring me benefits.
Talia gave him a grateful nod before saying, I don't want everyone to take a test, but how about a bet?
A bet?
Alpha Edward asked in confusion. Talia raised her index finger. $1 million each. Every alpha in this room gets to pick if he believes I'm the real deal or an imposter. The winning group gets their money back and splits the rest. The losers will get no money and need to kneel and apologize.
What? Are you out of your mind?
Alpha Edward shouted, but before anyone could agree with him, Maddox was already by Damon's side.
I will play that game,
Maddox announced.
Me too,
Alpha Christian was quick to add.
I sure hope you know what you are doing.
Damon's voice sounded in Talia's head.
Count me in.
Talia looked around to see other alphas gathering in groups to discuss the pros and cons of putting their money for Alpha Edward or for Talia. Other than Tony, none of them knew for sure if Talia was the real deal, and even Tony knew only because Axel confirmed it. But these alphas were aware that if they put their vote on the wrong side, it would be much more than just $1 million on the line. Most of them were contacted by Alpha Edward in advance, and since he was the one challenging Talia, their vote will confirm their loyalty. With nothing better to do, Talia was observing the spherical device that was placed on a small pedestal, resembling a crystal ball made out of copper or some other rust-like material. It had carvings of wolves and a moon etched into it. It was beautiful.
Alpha Talia,
one guard said from the side. He was the one who brought the gadget.
This device measures the bond between you and your pack. We call it the sphere of power. For a person not belonging to a pack, it won't show any reaction.
He put his hand on the item and nothing happened.
Since you are an alpha, the amount of light will reflect how much your people believe in you.
Talia placed her hand over her chest, remembering Axel's words about how she can feel the hopes and support of their pack members. Axel also said that those will amplify her strength and abilities. Was this device measuring that? So, only alphas of packs can make it work? The Guardian shook his head.
Only leaders can make it work. You don't need to be an official alpha of a pack. As long as people follow you, the device will react to your touch.
Talia became restless after hearing these words. Sure, she was an alpha of the Midnight Guardians pack, but were people actually willing to follow her?
This is brilliant!
Meg praised Talia through the mind link. You think so? Talia was not sure how this would end.
Of course!
Meg was confident.
Once the results are out, the misogynistic bastard from the Red Moon Pack will suffer a loss, and that will shake the confidence of his cronies. Why would they side with a guy who lost before the meeting even started?
But they will test if I'm the real alpha. Meg frowned.
Are you worried about that?
What if the bond between me and the pack members is not strong enough? Meg shook her head in disapproval.
Don't be silly. The whole pack worships you. They all felt your power during the Alpha ceremony, and Axel is reminding them how he found his mate thanks to you, and how you will do the same for everyone else.
Talia was not convinced. Even after all this time? Sure, it was only 2 or 3 days for her, but for the Midnight Guardians pack, that was more than 2 months.
Especially after all this time,
Meg said with confidence.
Axel explained to everyone that the two of you are working on ensuring the safety of our pack members. Do you know that since you became the Alpha, not a single person has tried to leave without permission? And now that Axel and Yasmin returned with the baby news, I'm sure that the crowd is going wild.
Talia closed her eyes and felt the emotions of the Midnight Guardians pack members. They were happy and excited, hopeful and... Thank you, Meg, for reminding me what's important. Meg looked at Talia smugly.
That's what a beta should do for her, Alpha. It doesn't matter that these old farts are scheming. Just like what you told Tony, remember that you are not alone. Believe in yourself, in your allies, and in your pack. If any of them dares to give you shit and crosses the line, I will blow them away and blame it on PMS.
Talia stifled a laugh. She was really grateful that Meg was by her side. Talia looked at Damon, who was talking with Maddox, Tony, and Christian in low voices, with their 4 betas standing at a respectable distance. Damon wanted to stay by Talia's side, but Talia told him how that was not a good idea and that he should be with his buddies until Alpha Edward shows his cards. Talia feared that if they were too close, she might reach out to hold Damon's hand or lean on him, and that would be a major revelation they weren't ready to make yet. She wanted Alpha Edward to believe she was on her own, isolated and vulnerable, because if he realized she had support, he might retreat for now and strike later when they least expected it. Talia believed that they were at an advantage because their enemies didn't know she was Talia, the mysterious girl from the Summer Solstice Festival, the one who went as Damon's date to Kalina's Luna announcement ceremony, Damon's assistant, Damon's mate. You believe in me, right? Talia's voice sounded in Damon's head.
Kitten, even if you say that the rain is dry, I would support you.
Talia's lips lifted into a smile. This was not about if she was right or not, but about Damon supporting her unconditionally. Wasn't he the sweetest? And she loved their private mind link that was like a super cheat. Talia noticed that when they were using it, Damon's eyes didn't lose focus like when he was mind linking the pack members, so no one knew they were communicating secretly. You are the best mate one could have. Damon perked up.
I am. You better reward me for this.
I will do anything, Talia said, and then added in a lower voice. And I mean anything.
Damn, Kitten. How am I supposed to focus with a raging arousal?
Talia burst into giggles, and Meg looked at Talia with concern, wondering if all this pressure was too much for her Alpha. Isn't there some time limit? Talia asked the Guardian who was standing next to the sphere of power.
None that we will enforce, he responded. We are here to serve Alphas who are members of the Council and to ensure that all activities here pass in peace.
Talia noticed that he said how they were serving, yet everyone was treating them with respect. That definitely meant something, but she felt that it was not her place to ask about it. Talia shifted on her feet and looked at the group of people where Alpha Edward was. They were chatting and laughing like they had the whole day available for idling.
Are you in a hurry, Alpha Talia?
The Guardian asked, noticing her impatience.
Yes.
There was the pack run, the full moon, and the ritual to dispel the black magic that was plaguing Damon, and it was all scheduled for that evening. The windows showed that outside, dawn was replaced by sunrise, and even though there was a time difference of 2 hours between this location and the Dark Howlers pack, Talia was worried because they didn't even start yet. But she couldn't say any of that. I don't think there is a point in dragging this, Talia said. They have no evidence either way, so what's happening are mind games and deals under the table. The Guardian was unable to hide his surprise. Do you think I'm wrong? She asked.
No, but I think you are bold to call it out openly.
He chuckled.
Alphas are proud, and they prefer when people think of them as the ones in charge. When you say that they are being swayed by someone else, it makes them appear...
He paused while picking the right word.
Weak. They will retaliate only because of this insult, to prove you wrong.
It's not that Talia didn't understand, but... If they are against me just because I said the truth, it will prove they are weak. As Alphas, They should know that power is not measured only by one's aura or how strong the punch is. And if they measure their worth by who accumulated more, that makes them open to manipulation, which is a weakness by itself. Your wisdom is beyond your age, Alpha Talia. I hope that years in power won't corrupt you.
Talia was not sure how to respond to this, so she smiled awkwardly. Eventually, Alphas gathered around Talia.
How are we doing this?
Maddox asked.
I assume that most of us don't have so much cash lying around.
The Guardian spoke.
If you allow me to suggest a solution, you can use your tokens to indicate your vote. If you lose, you will be required to pay the winners as soon as you get home, no later than 1 week from now.
After some murmurs, everyone agreed. Damon put his token first on the table, on Talia's right.
I believe that Alpha Talia is the real alpha of the Midnight Guardians pack.
Alpha Edward put his token on Talia's left.
I'm not so sure about it.
One by one, tokens were placed. Alpha's Maddox, Tony, and Christian put their tokens next to Damon's, and on the other side were tokens from Alpha's Edward, Richard, Peter, and William. Alpha Adam was looking at Damon like he was hoping for a sign that he would acknowledge Jade as his Luna, but when Damon ignored him, Alpha Adam put his token next to Alpha Edward's. Alpha Robert was quick to follow and put his token on the bigger pile, which made Alpha Edward smirk victoriously. He definitely had a majority. His smile fell when he saw that Alpha Patrick put his token on the other pile, surprising Damon and everyone else present, because Alpha Patrick and Alpha Robert were usually sticking together. Alpha Edward wanted to ask Alpha Patrick if he was out of his mind to side with those reckless youngsters, but he gave up on that. It was 6 versus 5, and Alpha Edward was looking forward to the results of the testing.
This is it,
Alpha Edward said while rubbing his hands, and then he waved at Talia to get going with the test. What's the rush? Talia asked while removing her token. Alpha Edward frowned when Talia put her token on the right, and with that, each side held 6 tokens. Somehow, it reminded him that if Talia passes this, it will create equilibrium, but he didn't think she could pass. Even if she was the real Alpha, she was young, without any accomplishments. It takes time and effort for people to support her, and she was definitely a greenhorn in this Alpha business, so assuming that the sphere will react, Alpha Edward will challenge her on how it was not enough. He didn't care if he was right. As long as he creates disruption, there will be doubts he could use to his advantage.